Academy Sports and Outdoors presents Royals Baseball. Today from Kauffman Stadium, it's the final game of this three-game series between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Kansas City Royals. Hi, everybody. Steve Physioc, Rex Hudler with you. This is the final game before the All-Star break, and the Royals have been in or shared first place for 67 days in the first half of the season. And, Rex, this team is playing with supreme confidence.
They are, and it's a carryover from last season. There's no question about it. And some of the same reasons they're winning we saw last year as well. It's going to be exciting to see what they can do, get their break, get the rest, and then move forward. But these numbers here don't lie.
Our Academy Sports and Outdoors leaders, well, the Royals plus 62 in run differential, the fourth time in history leading the division at the break. And look at how quickly they've been to 50 wins. On June 18th, Ned became the winningest Royals manager in team history. And the way they played this year, how about the importance of Volquez and Chris Young?
They've been pitching. There's no question about it. Now, they may not eat up the innings and have the innings, largely because of the 3 postponements, but still, that pitching and defense combination is working. And that's one of the reasons why they're in first place and will hopefully continue that way. But this guy's made a huge difference. Morales, oh my goodness gracious alive. This guy, he can rake from both sides of the plate. They have a run producer. Oh, no question about it. A definite upgrade from last season. But you know what? Madsen, Hochevar, there's extra pieces this year. Herrera, Davis, and Holland. Call the cops. It is about over. These guys are fantastic, and they're continuing to put up championship-type numbers.
Today, they look for win number 52, and they send their right-hander, Edinson Volquez, after win number 9 against the Toronto Blue Jays.
Left field, Edinson Volquez really has lived up to one of the nicknames he's acquired, Steady Eddie. In a year where the Royals have had so many injuries, and Danny Duffy, Jason Vargas, and Yordano Ventura going on the DL throughout the first half, Edinson Volquez leads the team. This will be his 18th start, and he just kind of goes out there, nice, calm, cool, and collect every 5 days. His numbers at the K this season, 5-2 with a 3.08 ERA. Opponents batting just .214 against him, and he is unbeaten in his last 6 starts. Almost always a smile on his face, always looking relaxed, and he's kicking Edwin Encarnacion, his countryman from the Dominican Republic, hoping to beat Encarnacion and the Jays. Final game of the first half coming up next.
by AT&T Uverse. High-speed internet. The Uverse revolves around you. Call 1-800-PIC-ATT. By your local Kansas City Chevy dealers. Come visit for great prices on all new 2015 Chevy vehicles. And by Missouri Lottery. Every ticket you play gives back to schools across Missouri. So play it forward with the Missouri Lottery. It's a beautiful, warm July summer afternoon at the K for the Royals and Blue Jays. John Gibbons' Jays find themselves 3.5 games back in the East, despite losing 13 of their last 21, and they've really been pinched for runs lately. But they were able to win yesterday by a final score of 6-2 after Kansas City won on Friday 3-0. John Gibbons' starting lineup will have Jose Reyes leading things off, and they moved Travis from 9 all the way up to 2 because he's hitting .413 his last 13 games. Bautista Hud will not be going to the All-Star game because he's been playing with sore shoulders, and Brian Dozier has been picked up, and he'll be going and representing the Minnesota Twins.
Oh, that's good. You know, all those Minnesota fans have been crying about Dozier. He's in. That's good. Good for him. And you know, for Bautista, that's a smart move. If you're hurting, you go to that All-Star game and hurt yourself more, you hurt your team.
Arcia in the driver's seat is Edison Volquez, looking for win number 9, solid ERA. And Rex, the last time we saw him start, he threw 101 pitches in 5 innings. But remember, it was raining throughout, and he said he never could feel comfortable with the grip of the baseball or his landing leg on the slippery mound.
Early countouts would be good for him. Getting that strike zone with his 3 excellent pitches. He's got that good fastball with great movement with that 2-seamer. He'll average 93 miles an hour to it. He'll top 95. Curveball is beautiful, has good downward break to it. Changeup, same with that. He'll use it to lefties and righties.
How about our Ford defense?
Ooh, man, they are all stars. Most of them out there are all worthy. You know, even Infante, Rios, good throwing arm. You know, Haas, Salvi, good to see Ned putting his A lineup out there for this final game.
And so many of them heading to Cincinnati, including Alcides Escobar, who will be the starting shortstop. Lorenzo Cain will be the starting right fielder, as Mike Trout will get the call in center field, and Salvador Perez the starting catcher for Kansas City. Alex Gordon, another starter, voted in. As you know, earlier this week, injured himself, out for that game, and an 8-week recovery expected, but he has tossed aside the crutches, and we're seeing him in the clubhouse walking around a little gingerly, but you know Alex, he will do whatever it takes to get back in this lineup as soon as possible. Reyes with a 7-game hit streak to raise his average to 277, had 3 hits in their 6-2 win yesterday. And fouled back, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, that's another thing. You know, when Volquez throws that 4-seam fastball up, it gets fouled off a lot. So that also will expend his pitch count some. Everything down against this powerful Blue Jays team.
You are right, Rex, because they are first in runs scored in the major leagues, averaging 5.3 runs per game, and also second in home runs, 115, second to Houston's 123. And a line drive to left field, a base hit. Paulo Orlando will get it to the cutoff man Escobar, and it's a single for Reyes.
Two-seamer up. He's going to have to work the 2-seamer down, especially against this team. Volquez, you know, might take him an inning or so to get his mechanics together and staying on top of that ball coming down. Front shoulder drive towards Salvi. Dave Island likes for Volquez to just go out and pitch and let Dave and Salvi take care of what could be going wrong.
So Travis moving up in the order, and he goes after the first pitch and misses, strike 1. But you just wonder when these Blue Jays are going to snap out of the doldrums. They went 27 innings without a run and then scored 6 on Kansas City yesterday. 24-year-old Travis out of Florida State takes outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. He was acquired from Detroit in the deal that sent Anthony Goes to the Tigers as their new center fielder. And Travis, a very talented minor leaguer, career average of .323, and everyday second baseman for the Jays.
Reyes can run. He's 14 out of 15 in steals this year. Salvador Perez over 30% throwing runners out. He can do it. But Volquez has to give an opportunity to get that ball home quickly to him. Yep, Travis has opened up a lot of eyes for the Blue Jays, especially John Gibbons. A lot of energy, sprays the ball around, and he has some pop. Gap power. He's got great hands.
That time he got it on the hands of Travis and fouled it off. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Devin with the batting average up over 300 again. Boy, he had that fantastic start, hitting .325 with 6 home runs the first month of the season. And then hurt his shoulder and was sidelined for a bit. Up the middle, past Escobar into center field. First and second with nobody out for the Jays. And now comes their power.
Went with a 2-seamer. I thought he might throw that curveball. His curveball's been his money pitch. You see, there's his 3 pitches that he throws. Now he does actually have a 2- and 4-seam fastball, so that would give him 4. But look at the average there, 179 average on that curveball. It's a good one when he can execute it, especially coming off of that 4-seam fastball. And that was the changeup that he threw.
So Travis stays hot. Now they have to deal with back-to-back terrific power hitters in Bautista and Encarnacion. Combined, they've hit 35 home runs this year. But the Jays without Josh Donaldson today, their fantastic third baseman. You might remember he came out of the middle of yesterday's game with flu-like symptoms, and he's supposed to start on Tuesday in Cincinnati representing the American League in the All-Star game. Breaking ball in there for strike 1.
Yeah, one thing you won't see is a bunt here by their number 3 hitter. Bautista, 17 homers. Volquez has rolled up 8 double plays so far this season. Just to get some of that movement going downward.
In the air, right side. Alex Rios near the line will make the catch, tagging at second base, and racing to third is Reyes, so it'll be first and third with 1 out now in the first. Well, the Blue Jays get a few strikeouts, but they also attack the ball, and they have hit the second most double play ground balls this year to Detroit's 94. And Encarnacion has hit into 10. Edwin hitting just .236, but very good power. 18 home runs, 53 driven in. First pitch, strike 1. Toronto has been the best hitting team with runners in scoring position this year, hitting .296, but in this series only 2 for 19. Another strike, and it's 0-2.
Oh yeah, that is living on the edge right there. That's perfect. Now Encarnacion's not so sure, but that's exactly where he wants to execute on his power bat here. He tries to pull that, he's going to hit a ground ball. Put him in the lane. See if Volquez goes to a secondary pitch. curve or the change. The change up is what Travis hit for a base hit. Maybe he goes with a curve here. He might try that fastball again. We saw he's setting.
Ooh. He gets the swing and foul tip into the glove of Encarnacion. That's a big second out here in the first inning.
Well, there's that two-seam movement right there. Okay, that ball took off. It started on the outer half of the plate and ended up on the inner half and down. Boy, that's exactly the kind of action he wants all day. And we saw him pregame, kicked him in the fanny there, and he just kicked him in the fanny again.
Edwin saying that's a personal foul. I get 2 shots.
He said, I'm going to get you.
Not in the first. Here's Colabello, another good power hitter. This guy a great story, coming through the independent ranks and having fantastic numbers and then having success with Minnesota. Oh, and he floats one up there at 84 miles an hour when Chris was looking for the heater.
He's a beauty. Look at that. Starts out belt high, ends up around the ankles. Perfect spot. That's his money pitch.
When Colabello strikes it, it goes. He has 8 home runs and limited playing time this year. He's driven in 32. Another good fastball, well located down and in. And Colabello down in the count 0-2. And this is a guy you can strike out. He has struck out 58 times in 216 plate appearances.
Notice the difference in his pitches when runners get in scoring position. He's bearing down. He's saying, all right, these Blue Jays aren't going to go easy. He's executing like most top of the line rotation guys do when runners get out there. Scoring position.
The runner goes. The pitch is fouled off, and Travis must go back to first base. Rex also in that last start against Tampa Bay, when he threw 101 pitches at 5 innings in rainy, muddy conditions, it looked like his two-seamer had run, but it was kind of on a flat plane. This one's got a little downward bite to it.
Right, it's because of the humidity, and he gets a better grip. But those conditions that he pitched under were not normal for baseball. Typically, you don't play a whole game in rain, so it affected him.
Runner goes again, and the pitch is taken up high. That will be a steal for Travis, as Perez does not make the throw.
This looks like a pretty good spot. Just missed. Could have been called.
So Reyes at third, Travis at second with 2 out. Well, he's fighting them. Good battle on some tough pitches. The next pitch in this inning will be Volquez's 20th. And Ned Yost told us before the ball game we really need to extend Volke because our bullpen availability not as strong as it normally would be. So they'd really like to see Volquez give him 6-7 innings. Time called.
There's a little bird out there. You know, it looks like he lost his mommy. And he is in a very dangerous place to be eating lunch.
In the dirt. No advance.
Salvador Perez was looking at Reyes saying, all right, if you want to come home, come on.
And Salvia again, second time in this inning where he has asked for time to go out and visit with Volquez to make sure they're on the same page. Colabello has reached safely in 46 of his 54 games this year.
See if he can execute a big pitch here to get out of this first inning.
Hit sharply, and what a backhand by Escobar. That's another Gold Glove play.
Softest hands in the league. That's why we call him El Mago, the magician. He's a magic man. Sweet pickup right there.
Ned Yost enjoying his first place ride for Kansas City. The Royals continue to boast the best record in the American League, winning 60% of their games at 51-34. And Ned's lineup today will have Alcides Escobar leading things off, then Mike Moustakas, Lorenzo Cain, Eric Hosmer, and of course the one notable absence, Alex Gordon, not playing left field because of the injury. Paulo Orlando gets the start.
52 wins would be great going into the break.
Here's Felix Doubront. He started spring training with the Chicago Cubs, then was released, picked up by the Blue Jays, spent much of the last few months in the minors, but has made one start, and it went well against the White Sox last week.
He's not an overpowering lefty. He'll average on his fastball 90-91 miles an hour. He's got a pretty good changeup, but his curveball has been his pitch. Hitters only hit 215 off of that. He'll cut his fastball every so often into righties. Tries to change ups away. Escobar usually aggressive early in the count. Has a good hitting count here, 2-0.
Well, there's that breaking ball you were talking about, down and in, and Escobar swings over the top.
And you know, that's what would be considered pitching backwards. He was looking for the fastball and a fastball count. Escobar, he's not easy to walk. He's got 14.
And he pumps that one back up the middle for a base hit. The Blue Jays defensively have made 51 errors this year, Rex.
Well, you know, they got to be able to catch that ball for him. Pilar in center field does a nice job. He's got a good arm, too. He's got 7 outfield assists. Russell Martin, he's an all-star, believe it. He's thrown out 36%, excuse me, 36% of runners. That's a good mark. Anything over 30 is great.
Strike one to Mike Moustakas, who's trying to end an 0 for 10 slide, and 4 hits in his last 43 at bats. That's seen his batting average dip from the 320 mark all the way down to 294. He has had a lot on his mind lately, though, and there is a breaking ball missing high, 1-1.
Moose has been getting in a little bit of a pull mode again, trying to pull the ball. We got to see him start staying inside that baseball, especially against this lefty. Doubront is going to work the curveballs away.
Popped him up, and the third baseman can't find it. In comes the shortstop Reyes to make the catch. Danny Valencia, he was staring up into the sun and a little wobbly legged, And Reyes recognized his difficulty and raced over from short, and he had been playing on the second base side of second.
Yeah, when you can't see it, you got to wave your arms and do something, let somebody else in there. But Valencia, he's trying to pick it up now. He puts his arms out there, and his teammate Reyes fortunately was able to sneak in there and make the catch. We saw a ball that was lost in the sun yesterday. The Blue Jays let it fall for a base hit. It could affect it today. Not a cloud in the sky, that makes it more difficult.
We had a lot of rain this week in Kansas City, but back-to-back beautiful days. Escobar not moving at first base yet. And as you take a look at our Toyota League leaders, Lorenzo Cain, since June 13, on fire, .392 average, best in the major leagues. And look at that OPS. Or near 1,200. Almost hit him.
Lorenzo, like some of his teammates, found out what he could do in postseason last year, and now he believes. And the Royals keep going like they're going, and if Lorenzo Cain can stay hot, you never know. He could be an MVP candidate.
He was the MVP of that American League Championship Series victory over the Baltimore Orioles. Just fantastic, both offensively and stunning defensively. And Dubron continues to work him inside and now has a 3-0 count.
Well, that good hitting by Lorenzo Cain's got him amongst the best in the league.
Miggy injured, not going to Cincinnati as a starter, but still hitting .350. He has that calf injury, and there is a strike in there, 3-1. Fielder hitting .343 for Texas, and Jason Kipnis, after a bad April, he's been on fire ever since, and now he's hitting .327. Ground ball, base hit. Escobar stops at second. So that gives him a .500 batting average his last 10 games. 17 hits and 34 at bats. Stay hot.
Tried a fastball down on Lorenzo Cain, and he was able to guide it right in the hole there where he wants it. Some action going. Hosmer, 247 with a runner in scoring position.
Eric went 4 for 4 on Friday, then facing a tough lefty and Mark Burley yesterday, did not get a hit. And he'll take the first pitch, breaking ball, strike one. It was about this time last year where Haas got hot, and I mean, he really was putting things together in the month of July before he faced Boston Red Sox lefty John Lester, who hit him in the hand, broke it. 0-2. But he really kept himself in great shape when he came back. He got his timing down in September, and then had that fantastic October, hitting over .350 in the playoffs. 2 on, 1 out. Good block by Martin. He just smothered it.
Could just double up with that pitch. Martin knows it's coming, so he's ready to block it. Be great if they could advance on a wild pitch. Breaking balls away, might come inside. Let's see.
Now a 2-2 count. It's been a while for Eric Hosmer since his last home run, 71 at bats, and that was back on June 19th against Boston. Ross was the pitcher.
He's due. He does have 3 homers against Southpaws.
The runners go. The pitch line to left field. That's a base hit. That will score Escobar easily. Kane moves to third and makes it safely. The ball gets away and Hosmer scoots to second.
Chris Colabello in left field is not your typical type Gold Glove left fielder, so he makes an error to take the double play away. That was a costly mistake there. Hosmer going the other way. This is really nice. This is a pitch that sometimes he tries to pull on, and if he pulls off of that ball, you might pop it up, but it's still a nice job of waiting and keeping inside of the ball, keeping them hands in there, and just hitting that big hole. Moving the runners. Like it. This throw here, Valencia not doing a good job of vacating third and blocking it, keeping it in front.
The Royals took the early 1-0 lead on Burley yesterday on a double, a sacrifice, and then a ground out. Now they've got a chance for a terrific inning against Felix Doubront, making just his second start with the Blue Jays.
You know, he makes mistakes in the middle. He doesn't have the velocity to get by with that, so that's what we're seeing.
2 balls and no strikes, and he is falling behind these Royals. That's always dangerous. Jose Guillen had 65 before the break in 2008. Morales with 58. Ooh, he took a big rip there, looking for a fastball, did not get it. He has 8 RBIs on this 10-game homestand, and the Royals have won 7 of the 10. Kane at third, Hosmer second, good speed on.
Morales from the right side, 309 hitter. He's just 1 of his 10 home runs are right-handed.
And Rex, the way he's pitching him, I don't think he's going to give him a fastball down the middle, not with Perez up next. He might be looking for first base open, a possible double play. Well, he did feed him a pretty good pitch, and it's driven to deep left, and that ball is gone. And Felix Doubront, you just made a big mistake.
You want a bus driver? You got him. Bona fide run producer. First inning tallies. Wow. How about this? This ball stays up, and Morales, he knew exactly what to do with it. On a hot afternoon here at the K, why not take the ball for a drink in the hydration station? Exactly what he did. Splash landing.
Rex, I was completely expecting him to throw another breaking ball. I mean, that would have loaded the bases, let's say, if he misses, and it would set up Salvador Perez, who does hit into a lot of double plays, but a fastball down the middle to your best RBI guy, and now it's through the legs of Reyes. Well, maybe that's why the Jays have been struggling lately.
2 errors in the first inning, not good. John Gibbons got to be shaking his head a little bit in this one.
And Kendrys Morales now second in the league in RBIs. How about this? Dayton Moore, way to go, going after Kendrys Morales, 2-year deal, 61 stakes before they break.
Yeah, you know what? They made the right move for sure, and you could see that Reyes didn't line himself up, and he messed up his footwork there, and the ball ate him up.
And Rex, you and I have known Kendrys for a long, long time, since he was coming up in the Angels organization. And when Dayton signed him, you and I were talking, we said, what a fantastic sign, because he's going to bounce back. Oh, he's way better than he showed last year with Minnesota and Seattle.
The minute the Royals signed it, and I found out about that, I said, oh, there's your sleeper. You know, everybody looks at last season's numbers, but they don't have any idea what it's like for a player not to have spring training. You're not going to produce the whole season. You can't join 2 months into the season and expect to have any kind of numbers.
Now Infante to left field. Colabello off to the races. He won't reach it. It will bang up against the wall. Salvi will be sent home. and there's no throw, and Perez is safe.
Wow, I was a little bit surprised that Mike Jershely would send him, but even more surprised that Reyes got the ball and didn't throw it. If you're the trail guy on that play, the backup, and that's Devin Travis there, you got to tell your shortstop, he's going. You got to be his eyes, because Reyes, he can't see. His back's to home plate. Colabello, we told you, he's not the greatest left fielder there is, and the ball fortunately stayed in the ballpark. Now, see, Reyes gets this ball in plenty of time, but Travis has to be telling him, home, 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 and it just didn't happen in time. So it's not just Dubron that's having a trouble here in the first inning, it's his defense.
So Pete Walker out for a visit with his failing pitcher, Felix Dubron. I mean, Felix Dubron, a guy who came through the Boston Red Sox organization at one time, one of their better prospects as a left-handed pitcher.
Okay, this is the trailer on the play is Travis. It looked like Travis wasn't even looking. When you're that trail guy, you're the one who's looking, and you're going to tell the guy what to do. You have to be able to communicate out there. That's the 10th 5+ run inning of the season so far. Royals, they get him in bunches.
And now it's Alex Rios, who's picked things up lately, hitting .310 his last 11 games. Infante, good speed at second base. Dubron has already thrown 30 pitches to get only 1 out. Breaking ball low and in. Well, his first start went very well against the Chicago White Sox. He beat the Sox on Tuesday 2-1, gave up 1 run in 6 2/3 innings, but not so good today. And there's a ground ball deep short. Reyes has it. His long throw just in time. 2 out. It's now time for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag KCDataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. Brought to you by T-Mobile. You can see the wind blowing out towards left. It may have helped Morales' shot get out of here for a home run, a 3-run bomb in this first inning. Royals batting around. Here's Orlando, deep short, fielded by Reyes. Safe, and a run scores.
Reyes came up with a great play there. He really got something on it from throwing sidearm, almost underhand. I mean, he really whipped it across the diamond. Ball was hit hard. He got a lot on the throw. And he's got him an infield hit.
That's one of the blessings the Royals have, particularly in this spacious ballpark. Very athletic, very fast. That's why they get the infield hits. That's also why a guy like Orlando might get to the ball that Infante struck to left field that Colabello did not get to.
It's 12th time this season the Royals have batted around. We're seeing it early tonight, or today.
And the Royals take the early 6-0 lead on the Blue Jays. Well, the Royals hitting .281 this year with runners in scoring position, 3 for 4 today. That's a good sign. They'd love to go to the break. Back to 18 games over 500. Long way to go, though, in this one. But I like their chances with Volquez, a veteran, on the mound. They already have their bullpen busy.
You're a leadoff hitter. You love hitting twice in the first inning.
Yeah, Dubron is one of those guys who is out of Venezuela, but he has a name that reminds me of a guy who would be in the French Foreign Legion, Lieutenant Felix Dubron. Right now he's surrounded by the enemy.
Yeah. Well, Esky fouled that right off the top of his foot. That didn't feel too good.
Swing and a miss. Dubron finally gets out of a jam. But boy, did he have problems in the first inning, and the Royals strike him for 6 runs on 6 hits.
Oh, the fans came to see some great baseball, and they got a lot in the first inning. Cable.
Husker fans, help us paint the K red on Saturday, August 8th, as the Royals take on the White Sox. The first 6,000 fans who bring their Huskers night ticket to the designated table will receive a limited edition red and white KC Royals Huskers cap, courtesy of Fox Sports Kansas City and Rally House. To purchase this exclusive ticket package, visit Royals.com/special events. There are those powder blue ices.
Look great, don't they?
Think we might be able to get one?
I'm sure we could. Hello. Thanks for coming.
Russell Martin will lead things off. Volquez misses away. 2 balls, no strikes. Home plate umpire is the crew chief, Jerry Meals. Jim Wolf at first base. Adrian Johnson at second. Ron Kolpa is at third. Up the middle. What a beautiful hop for Infante as it skipped off the pitcher's mound and directly at Omar, and he throws out Martin.
Yeah, that pitcher's mound takes a lot of hits away from certain players, but it hit it. Watch this. It's right on top there, slows it down. Of course, Infante might have had a chance on a running backhand play, but Hosmer with a pick at first base. Wow.
Well, when Volquez gets 4+ runs per game, his teams are 22-0 since the beginning of 2014, and the Royals 10-0 this year. That's even a better mark than guys like Clayton Kershaw, who was 19-0 last time I checked. And there is a pitch inside, missing to Danny Valencia. Valencia has always been a guy that managers placed in there to platoon against left-handers, but he's done a good job against right-handers this year, hitting .281 with 4 home runs. And he hits that one sharply. Escobar launches one, and Hosmer obviously had to come off the bag. But Esky thought, what the heck, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, that ball, it was really tough for him to throw him out. The hardest part about this is getting the grip. When you're going full speed, if you don't get the grip right on time, you just can't make that play. Now, we've seen him do it, but that's way deep. Good try.
And nice save by Eric Hosmer.
Can't tell you how many errors Eric Hosmer has saved that infield. Can't even count him.
But we can tell you the confidence the rest of the infield has in Eric, because Escobar, Moustakas, Infante have told us directly that this guy's the best, and we have fearless thoughts just getting him the ball as quickly as possible, because he'll dig everything out. Bow ties and pop flies. I'm turning 7 this July.
Yeah. Way to go, young man.
Royals started this afternoon's game with a 4.5 game lead over the Minnesota Twins, who are again hosting Detroit. Backhanded, Moustakas goes second. They get the force, and they cannot get the double play, and that will be an error on Infante. And I quite frankly didn't think they had a chance to get Kevin Pillar, and I thought Infante would hold on to it. Kevin runs really well. Nice play though by Moose.
Oh, it's a heck of a play. This ball could have been a double, but Moose was showing some range there, and like Escobar, throwing off balance over the top. In order to get that play off, you've got to be able to stay on top of the baseball so the ball will not sail. Look at how quick, cat-like quick to his right. And when you're a third baseman, yeah, there was no chance he had a double play there. That was forced. Infante knows it, but still doing all they can for Volquez. But you know, when you're a third baseman, you don't have to walk in on the pitch when it crosses the plate. You're more lateral movement. You're worried about going left and right because it's a reaction position. You got to just react.
Now Ezekiel Carrera takes ball 1. That was just Infante's 7th error this year. Now the wind has shifted. I mean, it was blowing out towards left and now back towards right. Runner goes. Pitch is taken. Throw by Perez. Got him. He came off the bag. Givens may challenge. He just motioned to the home plate umpire to keep it right here and told Pillar to stay at third base. But quite frankly, Rex, what's he going with his team down 6-0?
I have no idea what he's trying to do there. Already in scoring position. And, you know, for Ron Culpa, he was standing right over the top of that play. He obviously saw him come off of the base. And, you know, he had the base stolen. So if he steals it and he's okay, I mean, you know, he's 100% correct. He could steal it. He did, but he just didn't make a good slide.
We will have a challenge here, so it may be a stolen base for Kevin Pillar if they overturn Ron Culpa's call here at Kauffman Stadium. But he said that Pillar came off the bag.
Right, he had it stolen. But sometimes I don't understand head-first sliders that can't start their slide before. And you're almost better going feet first anyway. You stay on the base better. We see this all the time. Every game we see guys going head first that overslide. Now, we see if he comes off the base here. Might have.
And Moose was so smart about the play. He never took the glove off the body.
No, and over the last 2 years since replay's been here, that's what fielders do. You hold the tag on the guy all the way, even if he just takes a small step up.
It has to be clear and convincing to overturn the call on the field.
Yeah, but I love the positioning of Ron Culpa. Look at him. He is standing right on top. He wasn't back to where he couldn't see that particular angle. But Pillar, again,
the Royal defenders are beginning to walk off the field. Obviously, they believe that the call will stand, and it will stand. Out at third, Kevin Pillar, inning over. The Royals take a 6-0 lead to the bottom of the second inning at Kauffman Stadium.
Way to go, Moose.
Season as the Royals and Jostens have teamed up to provide the only officially licensed American League Championship fan collection, and they've got great fan rings, necklaces, cufflinks, key rings, and more. All you have to do is go to Royals.com/fanrings to check it out. Last year was such a magical year, so many great memories. The Royals taking a 6-0 lead in the final game before the All-Star break. They scored 6 runs on 6 hits in the first, and now Moose is up for the second time. And he'll flip one into left field for a base hit.
There it is. That's going to get Moose right. It's going to get him back on track. Pitch was inside. Obviously, he wasn't looking to pull it. And you can see Dubron making mistakes so far early in this one. Able to fight that ball off over there.
Mike was 0 for 11 before that base hit. And here's Lorenzo Cain. Reyes gets to second for 1. Cain will beat the throw easily. So Lorenzi will take over at first base, and looked like Cain was a little upset with himself. Like, I should have handled that pitch better.
It's exactly what Dubron wanted. But he's missing over the middle of the plate, and the Royals obviously in that first inning did not miss. They were on him, and it looks like so far early he hasn't been able to make any kind of adjustments in his mechanics to get the ball down where he wants to be.
Now Eric Hosmer, who had a key base hit in that 6-run first inning, lining a shot to left field that drove in the first run. And then Dubron caused his own problems when he fell behind Kendrys Morales on a 3-1 count with runners at second and third, first base open. He threw him a 3-1 fastball down the middle that Morales sent to the drink. Hold it first. We'll get 1. Cain is going to be in a rundown, and now will be tagged out. Double play.
Yep, that's the best thing to do. Lead like this, there's no need in wearing your legs out, getting in a pickle. Good job.
Royals lead the Blue Jays as we take a look at our University of Kansas Hospital injury report. D. Gordon dislocated his left thumb yesterday. The speedster for Miami won't go to the All-Star game now, although they're hoping that he might avoid the DL, saying it's not as bad as maybe initially expected. Jose Bautista playing DHing today, but he is going to sit out of the All-Star game as he rests a sore shoulder. That's good news for both Troy Tulowitzki and Brian Dozier, so congratulations to Dozier, added to the American League All-Star team. As for all of those Royals, Fizz Hutt had a chance to talk to each one today about who they're bringing. They're all bringing special members of their family and friends. You think about Lorenzo Cain, his little 9-month-old boy will have now been to a World Series and an All-Star game. Moose is bringing his dad there. Herrera's flying in, his mom and his brother from the Dominican Republic. Salvador Perez has his mom and his son coming. Alcides Escobar is bringing his mom, his mother-in-law, his dad, his wife, his son. And then I did get a chance to talk to Alex Gordon. He's going to stay back here and, of course, no surprise, work on that rehab. He said they're going to be introducing laser treatment very soon. He's limping around the clubhouse, looking pretty good actually today. But he said he'll be here for about an hour of treatment every day. And he said, plus, you know what? I did that go to the All-Star game, no play type of game last year. Not a lot of fun, but he's focused on getting back.
Yeah, he is a team guy, and just to be concentrating on what can I do to help the team out most, and that is get healthy.
Well, the thing I liked about seeing Alex today was his smile. He had a nice smile. And yesterday, man, he don't need no crutches. Look at it. This guy just tore his groin. And he's out there picking up his jersey. Congratulations, Alex, and to your teammates. Fantastic.
Herrera sends one to deep center field, and Cain will make the catch right near the warning track over his shoulder. 1 out. It really was quite the scene yesterday with all the guys receiving their All-Star game jerseys, and we're talking about not only the 7 Royals who have been honored as players, but the coaches as well.
What a shot. I'm hoping I can get a picture of all those guys standing out there with their jerseys. What a moment for Kansas City Royals baseball history.
And that was shot courtesy of John Pope, one of our production all-stars. Here is Jose Reyes, who singled his first time up. Toronto had a great chance to take the lead with 2 on, second and third. Only 1 out, but Volquez struck out Encarnacion and then got Colabello on a great play by Escobar. A smash off the bat of Colabello. Nesky backhand and fired a strike to Hosmer, inning over. We remember Volquez's first start as a Royal back in April. First 2 innings he was throwing everything down the middle, and he was getting hammered, but did not give up a run because the Royals were making fantastic catch after fantastic catch. And Volquez said, as soon as I was able to find my mechanics and settle down, get the ball where I wanted to, he wound up going like 8 innings in that first start and was terrific. And he said, I think I'm going to like it here. This defense is pretty good. There's a pop-up. Moose will have it. 2 out. That was a start against the Chicago White Sox where Volquez went 8 innings, only gave up 4 hits.
Volquez carries himself with confidence. You could tell, especially out there on the mound. Okay, and that's the best time to have that type of body language so the hitters are watching. But off the field, he's got a smile on his face. He's happy. He's easy to talk to. He speaks before you speak. I mean, you know, those kind of things right there really help the whole team, the chemistry of the ball club. When you have players that are cordial and they're friendly guys.
Another strike, 0-2, and the one guy you always see by his side is Giordano Ventura, a talented young right-hander the Royals have, and Volquez has communicated to many times that difficulties that he had coming up at the age of 21 with the Texas Rangers. With that can't miss label with the comparisons to Pedro Martinez. And it wasn't until he was with the Cincinnati Reds where he found success, had a 17-game win season there.
He's a perfect mentor for Giordano.
He gets a strikeout here, and that will do it for Toronto as Travis is done. So are the Jays. We head to the bottom of the third inning. Kendrys Morales, who went deep last time up, will lead things off.
Ooh, man, is he powerful.
And since 2008, Sarah has served on the Dream Factory Board of Directors, starting as treasurer and eventually elected to president. Through her leadership, the Dream Factory has raised over $1.8 million and increased the number of dreams granted to sick children by 45%, granting over 70 dreams in the last year. And that is a great program. The kids are usually here on Wednesdays, and each and every Royal goes down to that dugout to meet those kids. And I'm sure I've met Sarah as well, but they'll sit with the child and sign autographs and give him a jersey or a bat. There's a line smash off of Dubront. He has time to pick it up and throw out Kendrys. Out number one.
Dubront made a good play there, but I believe that Travis would have been able to handle that. The second baseman was playing Morales to pull.
Perez reached on the error by Reyes in the first and scored in the double by Infante.
There are some pitchers that are aware of where their defenders are playing. They look around, but you know, that's an awful lot to ask a pitcher to do. You got to focus on your target, what you're doing, your mechanics, your pitch selection is coming in. So, you know, it's too many things to think about at times. That's what the pregame meetings are all about.
2-3, fielded well by Valencia. 2 out. Danny Valencia, who spent a little time with the Royals last year and shared third base, for a little bit with Mike Moustakas when Mike was struggling in the first 2 months of the season, but then injured that thumb. And the Royals, when they got Moose back, they played him every day, and Danny was traded to Toronto to get a catcher, Eric Kratz, and a starting pitcher in Liam Hendricks, who had a good start for Kansas City in late August last year, and now back with the Blue Jays. There's a strike. He's in their bullpen. Infante doubled over the head of Colabello in the first and knocked in a run, his 25th of the year. Felix has already thrown 51 pitches and trying to get through just the third inning, but he threw like 35-36 in the first inning alone. A chopper to deep short. Reyes. He had to bring Encarnacion off the bag, so that will be an infield hit for Omar Infante, his second hit of the day. And that will bring up Alex Rios.
One thing that's been steady about Infante all year, besides his glove work, is his speed. Speed's been good. When he's leaning out front like that and hits one in the hole, he's going to be close to beating him out, even if the guy could stay on balance and throw. Been impressed with his foot speed.
So here is Rios, robbed of a hit on a terrific play by Reyes at short in the first inning. Even though the Blue Jays suffered 2 errors in that first inning, Reyes did turn in a stellar defensive play. And now Alex skies into the air, right center field. Pilar makes the catch. That will do it for Kansas City. We head to the 4th inning here at Kauffman Stadium. Royals 6, Blue Jays nothing. Of the Royals, and Colby, best of luck to you, as he is going to become a professor at Western Illinois. 783 consecutive home games, and he's been in our media relations department, but he is going to trade in his Royals golf shirt for a one of those flannel jackets with the patches on the elbows. He's going to be a professor.
This guy,
get a pipe.
He's been wonderful. Sorry to see him go. This guy takes care of us. Anything we need up here, he's always there, and he has that same smile every time. Kobe, thank you for your service. You'll be well, and you'll do well.
Jose Bautista will lead things off for Toronto in the 4th inning.
Fizz, if I talk too much about smiles, about people smiling,
never.
You know,
never
that's
talk enough about passion or enthusiasm.
Well, no, look, that smile is the one gift you can give somebody without even knowing it.
My mom used to say the only thing you can control in life is your attitude. So put a smile on your face. Be happy.
Whoa.
A 3-1 count now to Bautista.
I thought the heat was getting to me. It's getting to you too.
I'm beginning to melt. Volquez throws a perfect strike on a breaking ball, so that's got to put some doubt in the mind of Bautista, who may have been looking for the fastball. He's only hitting 161 his last 18 games. And again, Bautista's suffering shoulder problems. That's why he will not play in the All-Star game.
Well, this is the 6th consecutive year he's made the All-Star team, and you got to admire him thinking about his team and his body and not the personal gain from being an All-Star and going and celebrating with everybody.
Hits that one well, left center field, and Kane, man, can he fly. He's out there cruising towards left center field, and you think that Bautista has a double, but doubles go to die in Lorenzo Cain's glove.
Fizz, he wasn't even in high gear.
No,
there.
You're right.
It's just
smooth.
Yeah, he cruised on that. He's got another gear, folks, and he's just pacing himself here. He's got it all lined up, ready to go. Because you can really tell when there's a ball that he's after. I mean, he is simply able. Cain is able. Look at that smile.
There's the Cain Club.
Look at that smile he's got.
He's striding. Well, I remember him telling me the story when he was in high school and he did not play Little League baseball or organized baseball, and his high school coach just saw this terrific athlete and said, why don't you try out for baseball? And Lorenzo told me they at first put him at third, and he goes, I was awful. He goes, I was getting these smashes, getting him hit off my shoulder and over my head. And the skipper said, why don't you try center field? And he goes, I went there and everything had fell into place. Instinctively, I felt comfortable out there. I knew where the ball was going, and he knew where the ball was going when it came off the bat of Bautista's bat.
He's a natural, and he's worked at it, though. And you know, the thing about it, Lorenzo Cain, remember in 12 and 13, he couldn't stay healthy. He was still trying to gauge himself. He was trying to, you know, he ran into some walls. He wasn't exactly sure how to pace himself out there. And Trevor Vance, the outstanding groundskeeper here at the K, added 5 feet to the warning track for Lorenzo Cain. That ball got away. And the reason was that they wanted to let Lorenzo Cain have a chance to know where he was and how close he was to the wall, because Lorenzo's strides are so long. So that was a nice manicure of the warning track.
Lorenzo has said his hero is Torrey Hunter, but he ran into Torrey at an NBA game a few years back, and Torrey reminded him that said, slow down, young man. I want you to know the wall is unbeaten. It has never lost. You will.
Alex Gordon sure has made it look easy crashing into the wall, but I know his body has paid for it, but he's been able to stay in it. And when he got injured the other night,
Encarnacion will walk.
It wasn't the wall that hurt him. It was the decelerating from that gallant effort to try to catch that ball. It was hit off Guthrie. Now, did he go? Nope.
But did you see Encarnacion walk to first base? He and Volquez are good friends. We saw that little fun they had before the ball game in the outfield, and then he struck him out his first time up with runners in second and third base. But Edwin was kind of jawing at Volquez as he took first.
Competition turns it up a notch when you're facing your friends.
Now Chris Colabella, and Volquez works him inside Colabella hit a smash to left field with runners on second and third base, and Escobar with those soft hands backhanded beautifully and then made an accurate throw to first base to get Volquez out of first inning trouble. Didn't mean to do it. Fouled it off. 2-1. Hot, humid Sunday afternoon. Volquez has thrown 62 pitches. Now it's a 3-1 count. This is a team with plenty of potential, even though their last 6 games they've been extremely quiet, hitting just .213 and averaging under 3 runs per game. Before the season, averaging 5.3, and you do not want to let them back in the game by giving them free passes.
Now, Volquez wants a double play. He wants to put him in the lane right here.
Instead, it's a walk, the second of the game for Volquez. Fans, round out your postseason bobblehead collection on Saturday, July 25th with a Yordano Ventura bobblehead. Be one of the first 15,000 fans through the gates to receive this one-of-a-kind item commemorating Ventura's incredible performance in Game 6 of the World Series, courtesy of Fox Sports Kansas City. Then celebrate Hispanic heritage with the Royals during our Viva Los Reales event, featuring a salsa showdown and other festivities happening in the outfield experience. Get your tickets now at Royals.com or by calling 1-800-6-ROYALS. He was so good in Game 6 of that World Series, beating the Giants on a Sunday night. Martin, the batter, grounded out to the second baseman Infante to open the second. Strike one.
Volquez, good hard 2-seam fastball. Wants to use that defense here the worst way. Pitch counts getting up.
Martin did check in time. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And this looks like a good location here. I mean, top of the strike zone. That's a good pitch to hit. Spelled high.
Hit to short, backhanded by Escobar. They've got 1 and 2.
Just exactly what Dave Island wanted. Escobar, we talk about the first man of the double play being sure. Escobar was sure. Get the grip, get the feed, second man quick. Voila. Roll him over. Ham and eggs.
Avoid the lines. Order online with rapid pickup at delivery.panerabread.com. By Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And by Ram. Find your summer of performance with great deals at the Ram Summer Clearance Event. 6-0 Kansas City. All 6 runs came in the first inning. The highlights were Morales' 3-run home run. Booming double by Infante that scored Salvador Perez. And Paulo Orlando, who also got a single in that first inning and knocked in his 13th run, will lead things off here in the 4th. Paulo certainly one of the stars of this homestand. The Royals right now 7-3 on this 11-gamer. He had that walk-off grand slam to win a game. His greatest moment in the major leagues. And that was even after starting his big league career with 5 triples in his first 7 games. One ball, one strike. Felix Doubront settling down after a rough first inning, but he has given up just 2 hits in the 2 innings since. And then he goes soft upstairs, 2-1. Felix, a 6'2" lefty out of Venezuela, signed by Boston in 2004 as a 16-year-old and made it to the major leagues 6 years later. That's in the right center alley, and it is caught. Wow, nice play by Ezequiel Carrera.
Looks like he might have robbed a triple. That ball bounces and it skips any distance at all with Orlando's speed. That's 3 bags.
He is a very good defender. He was a center fielder for the Detroit Tigers, but all defense, no hit, and they wanted somebody to give them offense. That's why they acquired Anthony Goes from these Blue Jays. And Carrera now in Toronto, and he could play all 3 outfield positions. Goes, of course, going to Detroit in the Travis deal. Now Escobar, who is 1 for 2, singled his first time up and scored the first Royal run. He leads the team in runs scored with 46. Waves at that, offering 1 and 2. Zaleski now with a 10-game hit streak. 17 for his last 39.
Blue Jays manager John Gibbons has got to be thrilled with Doubront anyway staying in this game, because he was about ready to go to his bullpen.
Reyes will take care of Escobar. 2 out.
And Doubront again will show you his pitches, what he throws, and fastball, changeup, curveball. He'll cut his fastball, and you can see the averages. Now the curveball, that's been his money pitch for sure, and we haven't seen a lot of those today. But the ones that we've seen haven't had his usual break to it. So obviously he's settled down, but he's still elevating pitches and missing.
Now facing Mike Moustakas. Fought one off and singled to left field his last time up. Felix misses down, 2 balls and no strikes.
What Moose has done this season has been amazing. The turnaround. It'll just tell you the talent that he has. But when you're a power hitter and you come into the league and you're a power guy, it's hard to get that out of your mind. Okay, so Moose coming in this year, starting to get those hits to the opposite field, and then, you know, all of a sudden he's saying, wow, am I becoming a Punch and Judy type hitter? Is that who I am? No. Moose is now becoming well-rounded, and he's able to recognize his home run pitches. Like right there, he was looking to turn on that one.
Yeah, he was one of the greatest power hitters in the history of California. He set the high school state record with 54 home runs, and of course the Royals' first-round draft pick, and had a tremendous minor league career. He has a 3-2 count. But a guy who went back in the offseason, really worked on his game and worked on going to the opposite field. Dale Swain, the hitting instructor, has said many times he has absolutely great hands and the ability to manipulate that bat. And he sends it right up the middle, but right to Reyes, and that will do it for Kansas City in the fourth. 3 up, 3 down. To the fifth we go. The Royals lead at 6-0. Honda most trusted American League All-Stars. Salvador Perez, a starter at the catching position. Alcides Escobar will be the starting shortstop. Lorenzo Cain, the starting right fielder. Alex Gordon voted in as a starter but injured. And then the reserves: Kelvin Herrera, Wade Davis, Mike Moustakas. Herrera, Davis coming out of that bullpen, and Moustakas likely will take over for Josh Donaldson after he gets a couple of at-bats. Donaldson not playing today because of flu-like symptoms, so you wonder where he'll be. He was taken out of the middle of yesterday's game, a game that the Blue Jays won 6-2.
Bummer. You know, the heat, sometimes that stirs up stuff.
.1-0 pitch, and Valencia takes it tight. 2 balls and no strikes. Volquez would like nothing more than a quick 1-2-3 inning with very limited number of pitches on a hot, humid Sunday afternoon. Get back in that dugout. Valencia now has a 3-0 count. Danny had an infield base hit his first time up. Valencia had a big blow last night in that 9th inning off Brandon Finnegan with a 3-run home run to dead center.
I'll say he did. He got a 3-1 cookie. Didn't miss it.
Big rip there. Now it's 3-2, and Volquez went right after him with a fastball at 95 miles an hour.
Yeah, Volquez, he's on his game. He's working the whole entire strike zone all the way around. We're seeing some 4-seam fastballs. We're seeing some 2-seamers rip across the dish. Overhand curve and changeups. Mixing them.
Chopper up the middle. Escobar. 1 out. Let's go to Joel.
All right, Biz, and there's Alcides Escobar. We've already seen him make some dazzling plays in this game, and he takes so much pride in it. I asked him this morning, okay, Esky, first half of the season, All-Star break now, what was your favorite play of the game? And he felt like it was a play that took place on June 4th against the very speedy Michael Bourne in the hole, barehanded skip to Hosmer, and he throws out Bourne. A lot of plays to choose from, but he said, this is my favorite. He said, that was really nice. He said, it's my favorite so far. Because, of course, there might be more to go. Not his favorite of all time either. He remembers every single one of those plays. That's the one that he's most proud of so far this year.
There have been so many moments where Escobar, who has such great instincts.
You know, you don't get a lot of wows out of Eric Hosmer, but after the tip, yeah, I mean, there you go, from one goal to another goal. I mean, it was a short hop in the hole, and he had to have his feet just right to get a speedy Michael Bourne from the left side of the batter's box coming out. And Michael Bourne, he probably, I can't wait to see him again when Cleveland comes to town and we go there. I'm going to ask him about that play and see what he says. I guarantee you he's still shaking his head.
Boy, it just saves you, your pitching staff, so many long innings when your defense is good. I mean, that's been the problem for the Chicago White Sox this year. Their defense has just been abysmal, and the Cleveland Indians had a rough time defensively last year. So your starting pitcher or your relievers are out there for a longer inning. Pilar with a 1-2 count. He reached on a fielder's choice and went to second base on an error by Omar Infante. Right side for Rios. 2 out. Fans vote for the Royals Player of the Month at rallyhouse.com, and you will be entered to win a majestic prize pack from Rally House. So many times a guy is voted in or gets an MVP or an award because of offensive numbers, and just recently they're beginning to rank defensive numbers, and that's why Escobar, you have to really recognize his total game. Offense, defense, in the clubhouse, leadership, running the bases, instincts. Rex, one of the things I marvel at with Escobar is knowing immediately the speed of the hitter, where there are times with a slow runner he'll take his time and just send it across to Hosmer. But a speedy runner, he'll get to it quickly, maybe charge the play and get it in and out of his glove right now.
That's the first thing a shortstop needs to know because of the long throw. Third baseman, yeah. Second baseman, yeah. You need to know the speed, but the shortstop, he's the furthest back, and he has to rely on the arm. So you've got to know the speed of the runner. And if you don't, you've never played a team before, you've got to have a scouting report. Makes it tough in amateur ball when you don't have advanced scouts, but in the big leagues here, you get those reports and you have to know.
Outside, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
You know, I played a little bit of shortstop, not a lot, because I didn't have a good arm and they didn't have enough insurance for the fans over the first base. But I remember, you know, Vince Coleman, when I was playing for the Expos, I would come in 3 steps from my normal position, 3 steps, and still he would beat it out on a routine single to me. Really can put pressure on defenses to throw the ball away. You rush when you got a guy with speed, so you have to position yourself correctly so you can make the play. And in the big leagues, a shortstop needs to make that play 10 out of 10 times.
To first base, Hosmer backhands and will get back to the bag in time, and Eddie Volquez has his second clean 1-2-3 inning of the afternoon.
Love how Eddie's using his defense now. Now he's keeping his ball down. He's working.
back at the K, Royals up, and meanwhile elsewhere Minnesota's winning again. They keep winning, but so do the Royals. The Tigers, they are losing today. They lost last night. And our Mazda game break, we want to go back and show this because that Torrey Hunter swing, it looks a little bit familiar, maybe something similar to what we are used to seeing. He crushed that ball. Now he flexes like Rex Hudler, but the swing, Hud, see, we saw that pose from Hud on the pregame show today.
Right there.
The swing, Hud, looks like who?
Friesen. Check it out. Look at Locate. Look at it. They got the same thing. But I'll tell you what, their foot, very similar. Front foot, like it. Way to go, Joel.
And actually, Lorenzo Cain said he modeled his game in high school and college off after Torrey Hunter. That was his favorite player. King Cain. Well, he has singled and also reached on a fielder's choice. 1 for 2. He takes a strike. It's a 1-1 count. Dubront has settled down after a very rough first inning where he threw 35 pitches and gave up 6 runs. That's whack foul. Torrey Hunter's Minnesota Twins are certainly playing well. They have a 5-1 lead over Detroit, trying to take 3 or 4 games in that series. And there's a line drive struck to left field and over the head of Colabello. That is not his normal position. He's a first baseman moving to left.
Hey, Lorenzo Cain gets a double out of that. Nothing wrong with it. Locate going good. He'll take it. This ball was hit well. Gave us a curveball. He waited on it. Had a little bit of lean back. Didn't quite get the barrel on it. It is off the end. And Colabello reached up and just went off the top of his glove.
Oh, my. Now Eric Hosmer with a single and an RBI, his 44th of the year. He takes outside for a ball. That's why Dayton Moore and his staff have been scouting athletic, speedy, aggressive players, because he needs those kinds of athletes in a spacious ballpark like Kauffman Stadium. One of the reasons the Royals are 29-16 at home this year, their great defense. Jays certainly helped the Royals to 6 runs in the first inning with a couple of errors, and misplay by Colabello has Cain now in scoring position. Three-1 count. Good hitters count. We saw what Kendrys Morales did with a poorly located fastball on a 3-1 count in the first inning when he smashed a home run to left center field. Hosmer certainly capable. He takes a strike, and the umpire thought it was the final strike because he had his ring him up call.
Well, it's extremely hot down there, Fizz. Look,
I'm just saying.
You miss it, but that was a good pitch, and Haas had to do a double take. It's Jerry Meals. You know, this is a umpire is in his 19th season in the big leagues.
Haas cracks it up the middle. Here comes Cain with the Royals' 7th run.
He's going.
And Haas will make. Oh, he's out. I thought he got the foot in there in time, but tried to stretch a single into a double.
Nothing wrong with that. Now, if the game was close and everything, you know, I'm sure Rusty Kuntz would have yelled for him to stop, but you know, it's 7-0.
I like the hustle. And he almost beat it. Another ball out over the middle of the plate that's well struck.
Seven runs on 10 hits for Kansas City. No runs, 3 hits for Toronto. And Morales, who had the 3-run home run in the first inning, back up with a 1-0 count. And back to Felix. He'll underhand to first base to get out number 2. Sundays at the K have something for your entire family to enjoy, fans. Prior to every Sunday home game, Family Fun Day will feature face painters and balloon artists, and entertaining DJ and player autographs atop the Royals dugout. But the fun doesn't stop there. Following the game, kids under 14 can run the bases during the Skippy Fun Run, and the first 500 kids in line will get a Skippy t-shirt. Get details and tickets at royals.com/Sunday. This certainly has been a Sunday fun day so far, with the Royals leading 7-0. Told you that the Twins are beating Detroit. Detroit came in and they were 8 games back of Kansas City. And they will not have Miguel Cabrera, their great offensive threat, for probably much of July. Fouled off, 1-2. Twins have won 7 of their last 10.
In between pitches, Salvador walked over to Infante and said, "Hey, I need a little stick." Now that motor stick right there, he's putting. You got to be really careful putting that on. And he puts it at the very bottom of the knob, and not very much, because that motor stick in this heat is very gunky.
Well, Salvador Perez strikes out. The Royals are done, but they get one more run in the 5th. Not Felix Dubron's day. Saying, why me? Why me? Smartphone or tablet, stay connected to the Royals all season wherever you are with the MLB.TV Game of the Day. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball. And of course, DraftKings. These are the players to watch today. Volquez throwing shutout baseball through 5. Lance McCullers today at Tampa Bay, 4 runs in 6 innings. We're also watching Johnny Cueto, 5 runs in 5 innings, and Pablo Sandoval is 1 for 3. Well, it is the 6th inning, and that means we get a visit from the Hall of Famer Denny Matthews. Great to have you along board, Steve Physiok, with Rex Hudler. And Denny, how about these two teams? It looks like a team that's in first place and a team that's ready to hit the All-Star break and rest.
Yes, I think they are ready on the All-Star break, it would appear, after that 6-run first inning. But you know what? When you don't have good command and you don't have good stuff, it's going to be a long inning. Turns out to be a long game, and you could see that. At least I could see that after, I'm sure you guys could too. After 3 hitters, you could see that Dubront did not have good control. He did not have good stuff, and the Royals were just getting great swings.
And in Dubront's defense, his defense had let him down. 2 errors in that first inning.
Right.
It's not pretty.
It's not a good combo.
No, but if you're a Royals fan, you like that.
Well, sure.
So Volquez, working his 6th inning, will face Jose Reyes, Devin Travis, and Jose Bautista. And Denny, you've seen just about every single game that the Royals have played, and just wanted to get your look at this team as we head to the All-Star break. You always look back at the first half, what the team has done well, and what you'd like to see the team improve on in the second half.
Well, obviously the starting rotation has to be addressed, but my goodness, you got the best defense in baseball, you got the best bullpen in baseball, you have decent team speed, you have decent team offense, and you have a division where most of the teams are going to be, if not under 500, right around 500. So you have to say that things are in pretty good shape. I mean, if this team does not make the playoffs, wow, that would be a major upset, wouldn't it?
It would, but right now they are playing with such confidence, and you and I have talked about that carryover from last year, the success in October, which spilled into April, which was a very good month. Infante reaches it and doesn't have a chance to get Reyes, who runs so well. That likely will be an infield hit for Jose, his 2nd hit of the day, and indeed the official scorekeeper says base hit for Jose.
In talking about defense, people have asked me, is this the best defensive team the Royals have ever had? And I say yes, but equal to the 76, 77 teams that you saw. The only difference is this team makes more spectacular plays. The 77, 76, that era, they made all the plays. They got all the outs that they should have picked up, and there was a spectacular play here and there, but not to the extent that the 2015 Royals make the spectacular plays. But both teams were very, very good defensively.
That was with George obviously at 3rd base and Freddie Patek the shortstop. Was Cookie Rojas at 2nd base at that time?
For part of that, yes, until Frank White moved into 2nd. And you always had good defensive first baseman. John Mayberry was excellent. You know, that was a very good infield. Good defensive team.
Moustakas goes to first, high throw, and they cannot get Travis at first base, and that will be an error on Moose. He knew he had to be quick to get Travis, who does run well.
And he just got up underneath the throw. Didn't stay on top the way he wanted to. And when you throw off balance, sometimes that happens.
I don't know about you guys, but I've always thought that defense was probably the most underrated facet of the game. However, last year and this year, the Royals have played such great defense that I think people are beginning to appreciate just how much defense means. And it always makes your pitching staff more confident, makes them have better numbers. They feel better about throwing strikes. There's just really no downside to having a solid, good defense behind you.
Here is Jose Bautista.
Denny, if I can give you my opinion on why maybe there weren't as many spectacular plays back in that era, is because I think the athletes nowadays are better trained. You know, they don't have wintertime jobs like some of those guys did back in those days, and so they're a little bit more athletic, and they're able to get to some balls that maybe those guys weren't exactly able. Would you agree with that?
I would. And the thing about it is, that wasn't the way you played on the infield. Think about this. How many times did you ever see, and boy, he was really a good shortstop, Alan Trammell?
Right.
How many times did you see Mark Belanger, Baltimore shortstop, dive for a ball, either left or right? Never. Never. Brooks Robinson made some great diving plays at third base in the World Series in the mid-60s. but that's more of a reaction instinct position. You can dive, get to your feet, and throw. The thinking about shortstops diving at that particular time in that era was if you dove for a ground ball either behind second or going into the hole, you didn't have time to get on your feet and make the play to first base. So they never did dive for a ball. Only when Ozzie Smith came along, and maybe there were some others around that time, did shortstop become more of an acrobatic position as opposed to I'm going to be on my feet if I can make the plays, on my feet, great. If I can't, that guy has an infield hit. So yeah, your point is very well made and well taken.
Batista down in the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes. And you talked about pitchers being able to be aggressive. Edinson Volquez, his first start this year against the Chicago White Sox, first 2 innings, middle of the plate, line drive after line drive, but the Royals were making remarkable catches, and then he settled down and wound up pitching 8 innings. And the next day, as a ball is struck down the right field line, this will break up the shutout. In comes Reyes, and Travis will be held at third base, and it's a double for Batista and an RBI, number 60 for Jose, and that makes it a 7-1 ball game.
Yeah, Volquez has thrown 96 pitches, but on a day like this, add 10 or 12 pitches just because of the heat factor.
Totally agree.
So Dave Island comes out for a visit. But we were talking about Volquez, and he said the next day when I talked to him, Denny, he goes, man, this is going to be great. I don't have to walk. If I'm a fool if I walk anybody. I can be as aggressive as possible because the guys behind me are making all the plays.
Well, and as I said, that makes your numbers look better than maybe they would be if you were on another team that wasn't as adept defensively as the Royals. So, yeah, you ought to be thankful you are pitching number 1 in this ballpark half the time. This is a pitcher's ballpark. And number 2, that you're pitching in front of the best defense in baseball. What pitcher would not want to pitch half the time in this ballpark with this defense behind him? See, you can't name one, can you?
Nope. Now Encarnacion. Strike 1.
Watching that little gathering there when Dave Island came out to the mound, I was watching Moustakas. Moose is so hard on himself. You know, it's such a tough game to play. And you know, Moose was not happy that he made Volquez throw a few more pitches because he threw high to Hosmer. But he'll got a chance right here to make up for it.
He holds the runner at second base. The runner obviously from third base will score to make it 7-2, but Mike does get the first out at first base, Encarnacion, and it's a 7-2 ball game.
Now a word of caution.
I know what you're going to say.
It's a hitter's day. Toronto has had some pretty remarkable comebacks just because of their good offense. So it's not the All-Star break yet. It's only the 6th inning. The All-Star break comes at the end of 8.5, preferably with the team wearing the powder blue in front. But you can't go to sleep on this Blue Jays offense.
No, not at all. And that's a good point, Denny. It's, with those guys, you know, 1-2 swings of the bat, and they're right back where they want to be. So that's why the offense, you see this nice curveball. He's been good with that pitch for the most part today. The offense wants to continue to pedal down. Get all they can.
Colabello robbed of a hit on a wonderful play by Escobar to end the first. And he walked his last time up. Volquez walked 2 in that 4th inning, but then got a nifty double play, 6-4-3, started by Escobar. Runner goes, and Batista stole that on Volquez, who completely forgot about him, and that will be a steal for Jose. So he's now at third with 1 out. The Royals will continue to play their infield back.
That pitch count there might match the temperature out here today.
Yeah, both are going up.
Yeah.
Inside.
If the Blue Jays get this game to 7-4, it's a contest. If we go into the 8th inning 7-2, they may be on the All-Star break at that point. But still, to repeat, it's a dangerous team offensively. But you wonder what their mindset is after a 6-run first. I mean, they're pros. I'm sure they're saying, hey, we got a long way to go. The wind's blowing out and all those good things. But you do wonder about the mindset of some.
Some minds are weaker than others.
It's true.
Colabella with a favorable count at 3-1. An infield hit, an error, and a perfectly placed double down the right field line. A ground out has cut the Royal lead to 5. Big swing and miss, 3-2.
You know, Denny, I think that's where the comeback wins category really can help the team. If they have a lot of come from behind wins, you know, they can look at being down in the first inning and laugh and say, ha, well, we got them where we want them. You know, and they keep that push. You know, Royals have done a nice job in the last year or two and with comeback victories, and I'm not so sure about the Blue Jays and how many come from behind wins they have, but the Royals lead the American League with 23 come from behind wins. So that's a mindset. And it looks like,
yeah, Ned's coming out.
Yeah, Volquez is tiring.
He needs a fresh arm in there, and he's going to go to the bullpen. Toronto with 19 come from behind victories this year, and they trailed 7-0, but they've scored 2 thus far, and the Jays have runners on first and third.
They love this guy Volquez, his teammates, and why not, man? He battles. Nice job this afternoon. Fans appreciate him.
It's our Chevy call to the bullpen. A 7-2 lead over the Toronto Blue Jays. Steve Pizioc, Rex Hudler, Denny Matthews, Ryan Madson coming out of the bullpen, and he will face a right-hander Russell Martin with runners on first and third. Only 1 out. Madson has done a terrific job this year with a 1.53 ERA. This is his 38th game of the year. Martin goes after the first pitch and pumps it foul, strike 1.
And Fizz, this is a big job right here. Like I said, you get this game to 7-4. Now you got a contest. Keep them at 5. Even a grand slam isn't going to tie you, obviously. So you keep them 7-2, you're fine. 7-4, now you're scrambling a bit. So this is a couple of key outs to get.
Oh, how about this?
2 at 1.
Escobar, they will get any.
No. Oh
my goodness. That was a 6-4-3 inning-ending double play. Instead, the Royals' middle infield, which has been so sure this year, fumbled it away, and another run will score.
Haven't seen this all year at all. Esky with the bobble, and Infante looked like he took his eye off of it right as he was going to catch it. He was thinking about turning two and forgot about getting that first out.
Escobar made a decent recovery. Infante at that point in time, guys, has to be thinking not two but one.
That's right.
You can't get two until you get one, and if you're not thinking properly, you don't get in.
So now Danny Valencia comes up right after Madsen made an absolutely perfect pitch to get exactly what he wanted, a ground ball to short. And we were praising the Royals defense and their ability to make sure pitchers don't have to work harder than they normally do. But the Blue Jays, who defended very poorly in the first inning, now it's the Royals that gave them a couple of runs in this inning. 2 errors in the inning, one by Moustakas and one by a middle infielder for Kansas City. We're not sure who they gave the error to.
Infante.
They gave it to Infante. All right. And then Valencia gaps one right center field. That's going to score 2 more runs. And it's a 7-5 ball game. So the Royals really allowing the Jays to get back in this game. And now they have the momentum and the confidence.
Denny?
Yes.
Unfortunately, you were right. They are right back in this one.
I don't want to be right.
Well, you know, sometimes we like to be able to share our feelings and what's going to happen before it does. And man, you know what? That inning double play would have been a beautiful thing. And just sometimes in baseball, and you know this, when you don't make a play like that, the floodgates sometimes open.
7 runs, 10 hits for the Royals, 5 runs, 6 hits for the Blue Jays. The Royals with 3 errors today. They came in tied for 5th in the American League for the fewest errors with 46. And a pitch low, and it's 2-0.
Madsen fastball 90-95. He cuts his fastball as well, so he has a couple of pitches out of that. A slider he'll use and a great changeup.
In there, 2-1.
Now, like you said, Hud, you're 1 swing away from a tie now.
And Ned Yost was telling us yesterday, last year the 6th inning was a black hole. We had the 7th, 8th, and 9th set up, but the job that Madsen, Morales have done this year, along with Hochhaver's come back. And there's a ground ball over the head of Mike Moustakas. Everything going right for Toronto. The throw to second base is not in time. The Royals may challenge this, but the Blue Jays with 6 runs so far in this nightmarish 6th inning.
Unusual, not only for the defense, but also for a Royals bullpen to give up some runs. But they are human. Oh, what a close play. Looks like Montgomery gets put in there. We got a game, and I'll tell you, this is a game that they want, the Royals want big time. Now, the Blue Jays, obviously, they want it too, but when you have a 7-0 lead, you need to win that one.
Yes, sir.
And Minnesota leads 7-1 over Detroit in the 6th inning. Second time this year the Royals have had 3 errors in 1 inning. That ball's a base hit to right field, and this game is tied.
Maybe.
Rios throw home is not in time, and going to second base is Ezekiel Carrera.
They are passing that doubles baton around.
Well, that will be a single, and the guy going to second base on the throw home, and he overthrew the cutoff man. A 7-7 ball game with a 7-run sixth by Toronto, and out comes Dave Island for a visit. This inning should be over. Madsen threw a pitch to Russell Martin that he sent to the shortstop Escobar. Esky bobbled it, got it to Infante, who then bobbled it. A run scored, and then a double and a single, and we are tied at 7.
You know what you used to see, but you don't anymore, hardly ever? You could have almost given 2 errors on that potential double play ball. You could have given one to Escobar and one to Infante. They don't really do that much anymore, the official scores. It used to be fairly commonplace. For a guy kicked a ground ball, let's say at third base, okay, that's an error. The guy's going to reach, and now he throws to first and throws it away. That's 2 errors on one play, isn't it?
You would think, and I don't know why the official scorer won't do that.
You don't see it much anymore.
Now Reyes, who started all the trouble with an infield hit back in, seemed like an hour ago.
But you got to go back, Hud, to Infante's thinking at second base. When Escobar fumbles the ball, it is no longer a double play. It becomes a 1-out play. And Infante has to think along those lines. He didn't, and it really cost him.
Kane in center, and the Royals finally get the second out.
And Infante made an error earlier on a double play attempt that he had no chance of making anyway. So I think, you know, Infante's been doing a good job. His hands are quick and his arm is healthy now, so he really wants to turn everything he can get. But there are times when you have to just concede the other out, just get the one.
Exactly. You have to know when you have a double play or you don't.
Good speed at second base. Devin Travis, the batter, he's been hot lately. He reached on the Moustakas error in this inning, came around to score. Ground out by Encarnacion. Herrera warming in the Kansas City pen. One ball, one strike. Well, today they're much better, 4 for 11 after coming in 2 for 18 in this series, and they're number 1 in baseball at 297 with runners in scoring position. Blocked by Salvi. One count.
That's it, a little bit short with his changeup. So the Royals did it to the Jays in the first inning. And now the payback is coming from the Jays to the Royals in the 6th inning. It's the 20th time this year the Blue Jays have batted around.
Travis takes a strike, a full count, 3-2. So Felix Dubron, who has had just a very rough afternoon, is suddenly back in this game. After giving up 7 runs, 5 innings. And there is a base hit to right field, and Toronto with the throw home by Rios takes the lead at 8-7.
Madsen falling behind in the count. The hitters know what's coming. At least it's out over the plate, making him throw strikes, and they're not missing. So Gibbons has been cool, calm, and collected the whole game, even when his team was down 7-0. And now they are ahead.
An 8-run 6th inning, helped by Kansas City's poor defense, and a rare time this year we've seen Kansas City defend poorly, and Ned Yost will now make a pitching change and bring on Kelvin Herrera. The Royals are heading to the All-Star game after this one, but they want to be able to stop the onslaught of the Toronto Blue Jays in the 6th inning and come from behind again. This Chevy call to the bullpen will bring on Herrera. A quality pitch to Russell Martin that should have ended the inning, but the Royals defense let him down, and then Valencia, Pilar, Carrera, and then Travis got to Madsen, and all of a sudden a Royal 7-0 lead has become an 8-7 Toronto advantage. And here's Batista now facing Kelvin Herrera. Herrera will join the Royals contingent to Cincinnati following this ball game.
This has got to be the longest half inning of the year for the Royals.
25 minutes. And if you count the commercial breaks, probably a half hour. So that defense has been out there sweltering in the sun for a while. Batista doubled in this inning and knocked in a run.
You don't normally talk about time of possession in baseball, but we are in possession. We, being the Royals, have been possessing for 26 minutes. That isn't good.
Now Herrera fighting to get that ball into the strike zone against a dangerous slugger. And it's 3-0. Well, not much has gone right in this 6th inning. Wind blowing out, and most of the Batista drives don't need much help. Jose swings and pops it a mile high, but that will get out of play. 3-1, and Jose kind of kicked at the dirt, angry with himself because he felt that was his pitch as the skipper gave him the green light on a 3-0 count. Do you think he's getting a little too comfortable?
Well, Herrera's got to be able to hit his spots here. Get his team off the field. Get back in it.
Ground ball. Escobar has it. Nice pick by Hosmer, but a nightmarish 6th inning for Kansas City as the Blue Jays score 8 runs. The Royals do not defend well, and all of a sudden it's the Jays by 1. caller from Platte City, Missouri. If the Royals hit a home run in this inning, David will win $400, but if the Royals hit a grand slam out of the park, David will win $25 grand from Sonic and the Royals. Well, the Royals certainly need some offense in this inning after their pitching staff and defense gave up 8 runs in the 6th inning. The new pitcher will be Steve Delabar, a 6'5" right-hander from the state of Kentucky. Royals won on Friday 3-0, getting very strong pitching, then lost yesterday 6-2 to snap their 6-game win streak. Delabar will face the bottom of the order. It will be Omar Infante to lead things off.
Time to get a little bit of momentum going here. Get those runs back. Not all of them, of course, but get enough to get the W. Delabar, 6'5", 220, big guy, 90-95 fastball, slider, and he's got a split finger that he'll work out there. Pretty hard one. Throws it hard. Downward action.
And Denny, when you're a defender that contributed to a mistake in the last inning, there's nothing more than you want to do to help your team by getting on base, and that's what Infante wants to do.
Yeah, for sure. He's the most motivated guy in the ballpark right now.
Well, he has a 2-0 count. Delabar with a 3.04 ERA. And a strike across. One of the Achilles heels for the Blue Jays this year has certainly been their pitching staff, both their starters and the relievers. They've still been searching for a setup guy and a closer. And that ball is ripped into the alley, a base hit. And Infante starts the bottom half of the 6th inning well. He is 3 for 3. Kenny, let's go back and take a look at the trouble for Kansas City in that 6th inning.
Well, Moustakas was a little bit careless with the throw, got under it, airmailed it to Hosmer. And now here's the potential double play, but you got to get at least one. You can pin that on Infante. And now some base hits to the outfield, throws back in, not cut off, allowing the batter runner to not end up at first, but on second in scoring position. So a lot of fundamental errors as opposed to contrast to the mental errors too. So you had some of both.
And there's another base hit to left field. Alex Rios with his first hit of the day. So the Royals immediately come up with 2 hits off Delabar with nobody out.
Yeah, the Royals, they are only human. Okay, the mistakes are going to happen at times. So you make them, you don't expect them all at one time, but you know, once the Royals opponents score, they always come back. They have that knack this year, and they're on their way now.
And a lot of pressure too, guys, on Delabar, because he knows that his team was dead, and all of a sudden they get 8, and now he goes to the mound and he has to throw up a 0, and he gives up back-to-back hits, and now his team just goes, oh no, because their bullpen has betrayed them many, many times so far this year. Well, they're a 500 team, so that's pretty obvious. But Delabar, with a lot of pressure on him, you'd think, well, now he's got a lead. Everybody's feeling pretty good, but not after back-to-back hits.
Denny, if you were Ned Yost, would you bunt here?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Okay, Paulo Orlando, he can bunt. He's a good bunter. He's got good speed. The other side is he's not the kind of guy that you can double up easily so fast. So either way, you can let him swing away or just give yourself up and move the runners over.
He shows bunt and both corners were in. He has 1 sacrifice bunt this year, also has 3 bunt base hits.
No, he did a good job laying off that high one. Now, when a pitcher knows the bunting situation, he's going to throw that ball letter high. He wants you to pop it up. It's harder to get that ball on the ground. So sometimes tall hitter like Paulo Orlando might want to get down, bend his knees a little bit, make himself a little lower.
Now they have him swinging away, and he pops it up foul territory. Will Play will not be made by the second baseman. Travis really kind of slid hard into that gate.
You know, there is an old saying in baseball, if you're playing for one run, that's usually what you get. You don't get any more than one. Sometimes you don't get any. But you bunt, you're playing for one. That's the most you're going to get normally. Not always, but that's one of the old cliches in this game.
Right, and now with all the numbers and the modern technology that's out there, they're saying that the percentages are higher when he swings away.
They do get the bunt down. It's a dandy. And the sacrifice is executed. And now one of the Royals' best hitters this year with runners in scoring position will be coming to the plate in Alcides Escobar.
Devin Travis did a nice job there. If he didn't catch that ball, both those runners would probably score. But you got to have quick feet. All middle infielders have to be able to be quick. Now watch how he shuffles his feet here for this bad throw. Tags it with his right foot. He read it perfectly and really saved Delabar there. Watch how the throw is errant, so he shifts from his left to his right foot. Quick feet. Good play.
That is a very good play. That is a more difficult play than he made it look.
That could be the key if somehow Delabar gets out of this inning. That play will stand out.
Well, you hope it's the right man, right spot. Escobar 344 with runners in scoring position this year. Strike one. The Royals this season and today, 282 with runners in scoring position and 4 for 5 with a lot of that damage done in the first inning. Delabar has a favorable count at 0-2.
If you are Escobar, you must avoid the strikeout or an infield pop-up.
Delabar is a strikeout pitcher with 27 and 23 2/3.
Your thinking has to change right now with the count 0-2.
Well, he'll get the run home. And it goes through the legs of Reyes. Oh, my goodness. And now Escobar scoots to second base. Are you kidding me?
What goes around comes around. Jose Reyes gift wrapped it. He gift wrapped that one, didn't he, Denny?
Wow.
And it was Reyes that got the Royals on a 10-game winning streak last season.
Oh, man, in Toronto.
With that play to end the game.
Never forget it.
The game was over. A routine ball, and he short-hopped it in Encarnacion, and the Royals went on and won 10 straight.
He flipped the Royals' ignition switch with that play.
But, Denny, you were right. He changed his mentality with 2 strikes on him, just pushed it up the middle, forced them to make the mistake.
Make contact, you can't strike out.
Exactly. year, but he has made 2 critical ones in this game, one in the first and a huge one in the 6th. The Royals tied it and scored the go-ahead run on his error. And now Escobar at second base. Moustakas gets hit in the shoulder, and he's on first base. And here comes Lorenzo Cain. Well, let's take a look at the Reyes mistakes, Denny. And you were a former infielder growing up.
Well, you're always taught to keep your glove down until the last moment. If you bring it up, it goes between the wickets.
Well, it's his footwork. Okay, there's the other one.
That too.
Yeah, his feet aren't moving, and the ball is playing him.
It reminded us of May 29th last year. Game over if he makes this play in the dirt. Royals scored the tying run, and then Infante won it in the 10th.
Thank you very much.
And that's the play last year that got the Royals off to a good start. So maybe Reyes can jumpstart the Royals in this game to get them to a victory before the All-Star game. Cain up with 1 out, 2 on. Lorenzo today is 2 for 3 with a single and a double.
Loop 87 and 93, cuts his fastball, slider and a changeup.
Now he has the advantage on Cain, 0 and 2.
Check that. That last pitch was 95.
Right-handers hitting just 241 against Loop. Left-handers 286, and a lefties in the on-deck circle in Eric Hosmer. There's a base hit to right field. Escobar's charging around third. He will score.
And not the greatest of throws by Carrera, the right fielder. Almost moved the runners up. The Royals have the ability to answer. They have been doing it all year long, so I'm not surprised. Now, they'll take the gift whenever there's a guy that boots the ball and they get some runs. They'll take them. That's part of the game. But this inside-out swing is impressive. He wasn't trying to hit a 3-run homer. He's just trying to keep the line moving. That's a beautiful swing.
Good, intelligent hitting, too.
Yes.
You know what we're seeing in this game? The Toronto Blue Jays' entire season in a nutshell.
Well, I will say this, though, about the Royals. And, Denny, I was visiting with Don Wakamatsu, the Royals bench coach, the other day, and I said, what impresses you most about our team? And he said, their ability to let the bad go and move forward. And this was, you know, we were talking about going game to game, but sometimes it can be within a game from inning to inning. They've got a toughness about them. They said, okay, we've made some mistakes. Now let's come back. And Infante and Rios both with base hits to start this inning. Then the sacrifice. Then the huge error by Reyes when Escobar did his job on 2 strikes, shortening his swing. Hosmer with a big rip. Now finds himself 2 balls and 2 strikes.
He had a hydration station swing there. Just under it.
Luke faced Hosmer in the 7th inning on Friday, and Hos chopped one to third, got an infield hit. Sends that one foul, and that was his 4th hit of the night.
first base hit of the afternoon for Hosmer was a beauty. He shortened up on a pitch in the middle of the plate, and he hit it to left field. See if he can do that again.
We already knew it, but this confirms it, this game. If you don't have a consistent, stable, good bullpen, the way baseball is structured now, the way it's played, the way it's managed, you got no chance. You got no chance. And that just underlines and confirms how Ned Yost has had such a reliable bullpen now over the last few baseball months, going back to last year, and how much.
Noob with a good pitch there, strikes out Hosmer.
Just pausing for the pitch. How much easier it is to manage when you can point to your bullpen and know that 99% of the time they're going to get it done. And then you look at John Gibbons. We were talking about this on radio on Friday night. John Gibbons points to his bullpen. He has no idea what's coming out of the bullpen. It could be a decent outing. It could be a horrendous outing.
Yeah, it really makes
what a difference.
The blood pressure go up on a manager.
Now a strike to Kendrys Morales. Kendrys with a 3-run home run in the first, and then twice is grounded back to the mound.
No lead is safe against the Blue Jays. Get as much as you can. Get greedy.
You are exactly right. Our Chrysler drive of the game. Morales in the first on a 3-1 pitch.
Oh, man, was it a beauty.
A nicely centered pitch.
Oh, and a good easy stroke. Took that ball for a drink.
Rolls one to short. Reyes gets it to second base for the force that will end the inning, but the Royals, after giving up 8 in the top of the 6th, come back and score 3 runs in the bottom of the 6th. Denny, thanks for joining us for about an hour.
Yeah, I've done all the damage I can possibly do. See you later.
Ford for the best deals on new Ford cars and trucks. Visit thoroughbredford.com and by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price every day. Well, this certainly has been a wacky day on a warm Sunday afternoon. Over 100 degrees. The Royals with a 10-8 lead, but they had a 7-0 lead before the Blue Jays roared back with 8 runs in the top of the 6th inning, and both teams not defending well at all. in the 6th inning.
Yep, this is baseball. Things like this happen occasionally. And look, the bottom line is the win. For the Royals, love to have 52 wins heading into the break.
Luke Hochevar is warming for the Royals down in their bullpen as Herrera will stay on for the 7th inning. He finished off the 6th getting Batista on a ground out to short. Now he starts Encarnacion with a good fastball, swung on and missed, strike 1. Encarnacion 0 for 2. Ground ball short, backhanded Escobar. 1 out. It's now time for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag KCDataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast brought to you by T-Mobile. With 1 out, nobody on. Colabello, the batter. Herrera's come on to face 2, get both of them out on grounders to short. And Colabello takes outside, ball 1. Calhoun was part of the Royals' victory on Friday, 3-0, throwing a scoreless 7th. 2-0. Everybody should be wearing a hat today. It's a hot one, sunny. Fouled off, 2 balls, 1 strike. Chris was robbed of a hit on a wonderful play by Escobar in the 1st, but then has walked his last 2 times out. Volquez worked 5 shutout innings, and then in the 6th began to tire in this hot weather. The Royals defense did not help him out. A lot of those runs in that 6th inning unearned. Grounder third. Moustakas boots it. And the Royals suffer their 4th error today. Oh, they're calling that a base hit.
I can tell you, as you see Jim Wolf, the umpire, wiping the perspiration off, the heat has made a difference in today's game. Now, sometimes we all know when you're out there working in the heat that sometimes that could cause mental lapses and things that happen. But, you know, Moose, he's thinking that he could have caught that, but I'm sure that.
Well, they just changed it to an error, E5. So the Royals with their 4th error.
I mean, thinking about the umpires, they don't sit down in between innings. They're standing out there the entire time. So they are earning their money.
Royals with 10 runs, 13 hits, 4 errors. The Blue Jays 8 runs, 9 hits, 3 errors. Martin with a base hit to right center field. Colabello racing for 3rd, and they're going to send him home. And all of a sudden it's a 1-run game again.
You can go ahead and mark this one down as one of the craziest games of the year. Wow.
Well, it'd be easier to forget about if they nail down the victory, but right now.
And Lorenzo Cain had a hard time picking the ball up the track. Colabello not blessed with great running speed, but with a perfect throw to the cutoff man, they might have had a chance at him. 1, 2, almost twice he couldn't find a handle.
So a 10-9 ball game, and one that has been topsy-turvy. So many mistakes by both sides. The Royals still lead by 1. Ground out, an error, a single. Danny Valencia, who came in hot and is 2 for 3 today. He had a 2-run double in that 6th inning, and that was one of the big hits for them to come back and eventually take the lead. And now Herrera comes inside, and I thought he may have clipped Danny, but they say it did not hit him. And they throw down to third and get him! And alert Salvador Perez. Wow, gets Russell Martin at third base, a guy who should know better.
There's a smile. You can't sleep on Salvi. Watch out. He's got such a quick release here. He shows it and did not hesitate one bit. Martin, he's no way he's going to come home and score on that. So you wonder why he even attempted. Now that was we haven't seen Herrera miss like that in a while. Look at Salvi. He's keeping an eye on him. And Martin.
They may challenge though, Hud.
Well, let him challenge it. It is one heck of a play by Salvi. See Martin, he's slowing down. And then he speeds up again, and about that time he took that last little half step. Moose was able to get that tag down on him. And they're going to check it out.
So we have a challenge here at Kauffman Stadium with the Royals currently leading 10-9. We had one challenge earlier that they overturned.
Well, that last angle we saw there, you wonder if Martin didn't get his right hand in there in time.
So they will talk with the umpires in New York, but this is a big moment with 2 out.
Copa again, right on the call. His eyes were right there.
It's a huge play because that would have been the 2nd out. If they overturn it, it'll go back to 1 out, runner at third, where a ground ball, fly ball could tie this game.
Just more standing around in the heat. Look at those guys. They're walking around. You know, it's affecting them, and I'm sure they're talking about it too. They're saying, whoa, man, can you believe this game? On what I'm thinking is the hottest day so far in Kansas City. Oh, so close.
Yeah, I can't tell. Again, the umpires in New York City have a few more camera angles than we do. And it must be clear and convincing to overturn the challenge by the Toronto skipper John Gibbons. This has been a wild one before the All-Star break, the final game for both the Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays before the break. The Royals came in with a record of 51-34 and a 4.5 game lead on Minnesota. Last time we checked, the Twins were up big, and they call them out. So that is a huge play in this game. 2nd out, nobody on. Royals leading by 1.
Well, Martin got a little careless. But a heads-up play by Salvador Perez. One of the reasons why he's an all-star and a Gold Glover. Pays attention to detail.
So the call stands officially. Now Herrera goes after Valencia, gets him to pop up. Escobar says he wants it and takes it. The Jays come up with a run. It's 10-9. Salvador Perez, thank you very much.
Take that momentum into that dugout. Atta baby.
As Panera takes us around the league, Oakland shuts out Cleveland. Sonny Gray, his third career shutout. Minnesota all over Detroit. White Sox finally lose. And Tampa Bay, one better than Houston. The Astros suddenly struggling mightily. Our Mazda game break takes us to Minnesota. They have completely manhandled Detroit in this series. That's young Miguel Sano going deep off of Shane Green. If you're the Twins, maybe feeling like they did last week, where they led every single moment of a 4-game series against the Royals and left here not gaining any ground. Today, they're watching the Royals allow 8 unearned runs, yet the Royals are winning. You never know what you're going to see, but we'll talk about it on Boulevard Royals Live. A day so far where we have seen 7 errors, 11 total unearned runs, 10-9. We'll have that to talk about, get reaction, and start to get you ready for the All-Star game and the second half. Hang on tight. Who knows what else is going to happen.
And Joel, it's so interesting how this game rolls along. We had Denny Matthews in the booth, and we were talking about the great Royals defense and how it limited any chance for comebacks. And all of a sudden you go, holy cow, what's going on the field? This is not the same team we've seen all year long.
No, it happens. And today, of all days, as hot as it is, really, that's a big reason for it. 8 unearned runs by Kansas City Royals. That ties a record. That's a Royals record.
Dump water on me, Perez. On a hot day, I think many fans would welcome that. And if Salvi's there to dump the water, that means KC wins.
Better believe it.
That's what everybody wants here at the ballpark. And this is a long one as we head to the bottom of the 7th inning. This game almost 3 hours old. And Salvador Perez will lead things off. He is 0 for 3, did reach on an error by Reyes in the first and scored a run. Brett Cecil is the new pitcher, and he delivers the first pitch, and it is launched to left center field. Racing back, the center fielder, and Kevin Pillar is there to make the catch for out number 1. Cecil is a 6'1" lefty out of Dunkirk, Maryland. He was a starter in the past, but the last few seasons he has been out of their bullpen. Matter of fact, a very good starter in 2010 when he won 15 games.
He'll go 88 to 94 with his fastball. Curveball, changeup.
He has not had a great year with a ERA of 4.8 and has given up an earned run in 5 of his last 12 outings. Infante got the Royals started extremely well in that 6th inning in their comeback. He singled to left field. Rios then singled. Orlando sacrificed, and then Reyes with the big error that plated not 1 but 2 runs.
Get that batting average over 240.
Right now at 237, started the day at 229, but Infante with 3 hits and 3 times up, a double and a pair of singles. He scored 2 runs and driven 1 in. Right side, Carrera shades his eyes and makes the catch for out number 2. Royals will have much of this week off and then head to Chicago for a doubleheader on Friday. And Ned Yost told us that he'll go with Young and Volquez in that doubleheader Friday, and then Saturday go with Guthrie, Duffy on Sunday, and start Ventura Monday against the Pittsburgh Pirates back here in this ballpark. So the next time you have a chance to see the Royals at the K, Pittsburgh's in town on July 20th through the 22nd. Then we go to St. Louis for 1 on the 23rd, and then 3 back here against the Houston Astros, the first place team in the West. Fouled off. But Houston has lost 5 straight games. And they just have a half-game lead on the Angels now in the West.
It happens to every team. Every single team. It's just baseball. That's why it takes so many games to find out who's the most consistent team. I'll never forget in 1995. Fizz, were you broadcasting for the Angels
No,
then?
96 was my first year,
Okay.
and that was your best year.
Well, I was playing for that team, and we had a 12-game lead in August, mid to late August. 12-game lead.
Beginning of August, you lost your shortstop Gary DiSarcina to an injury, and that really hurt.
Yeah, and then you know what though? Seattle, they caught us and went 3 up on us for the last week of the season. Now we salvaged. They lost 3. We won all of ours, and we had a 1-game playoff. But that'll just tell you about the crazy season of a baseball season. You never know. So no lead is safe, because you never know what's going to happen. We had a really good offense that year. Our offense raked. Chili Davis, Tony Phillips, Jimmy Edmonds. We had some hitters, man. Garrett Anderson had just got there. And so Tim Salmon was there. They had an incredible. So the pitching, we picked up the pitching, and then when the offense shut down, there was no pitching to help us. And we just could not stop the bleeding. It was the most painful season I've ever endured, ever. To see how all those games evaporate. 12-game lead.
Slow roller short. Reyes plays it, and Rios is out number 3. So a good job for Toronto and Brett Cecil gets the Royals in order, and KC heads to the 8th, leading 10-9. Here's KC trying to take 2 of 3 from the Jays, and extraordinary moments happen every night in baseball, but on one night they all happen in one place. Don't miss the 86th All-Star Game. Coverage begins at 6 o'clock Central this Tuesday on Fox, and the Royals sending 7 guys to Cincinnati in the All-Star Game. Alex Gordon, as Joe Goldberg told you earlier, will not be going. He wants to stay home and rehab that injured leg. But the week ahead, of course, on Fox, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, then the Royals versus the White Sox. That's a 4-game series. Day-night doubleheader on Friday, then games on Saturday and Sunday. You can watch them all on Fox Sports Kansas City. And here comes one of the best relievers in baseball, and the Royals really want him to be rock solid on a wobbly afternoon. Kansas City leading 10-9. Davis with a 0.24 ERA. Kevin Pillar is the first batter, and he swings mightily at the first pitch and fouls it back, strike 1.
He had a good rip. Fastball, cut fastball, overhand curve. 3 pitches Davis will use. And he's excellent with his command, usually when he hits his spots. He knows exactly where he wants to throw it.
Takes a mighty rip, 1 and 2. He did make a base running mistake back in the second inning, trying to steal third with his team down by 6 runs. And that was the final out of the second inning.
You know, and he went head first and he had the bag easily and he overslid. And you know, I had to go over and talk to the Blue Jays broadcaster, Pat Tabler, their color commentator. And I said, Tabs, why do guys overslide so much now? He said, well, Pilar.
To right field. Rios going back. Is the ball really carrying? It's over his head. And now Pilar to third base with the potential tying run. And you could tell on this hot afternoon that that ball was going to carry farther than Rios thought as he broke in and then went back.
Yep, off the end of the bat, sometimes outfielders, they go on the sound and they can kind of tell. But Rios started in, and by that time it was too late. Ball carried over his head. Just like you said, leadoff triple.
So the Royals will bring their infield in with Carrera coming up.
Anyway, let's see Pilar go feet first. Oh, he went head first again. Okay, Tabler told me that he got hit in the hand sliding head first, and he slid feet first then for the rest the whole season, and then until today, and he's back going head first again.
Well, the way this game is going, there is nothing predictable. Carrera takes strike 2, and Davis, of course, going for the strikeout, and he is indeed a strikeout pitcher with 42 in 38 innings.
Yep, and we've seen Davis this year let some guys get on base. Of course, he didn't let them; they earned their way on, but he's able to get himself out of it with his excellent stuff.
He struck him out. So Wade gets the younger Carrera.
Look at the cutting action. See what that ball does? Just 2-3 inches is enough to fool him. And you can tell by the swing. That was an emergency hack if I've ever seen one.
And you have no more determined player at Kauffman Stadium right now than Jose Reyes, who has made 2 critical errors.
He's the guy who can put the bat on the ball.
And he does with a single to center field that ties the game. He wasn't waiting. So we are back to square one. The Royals have led by 7 and trailed by 1 and led by 2 and are now tied at 10. I wouldn't be surprised if Reyes is off and running. He has 14 stolen bases this year. He's been caught only 1 time.
Davis has a nice slide step. He'll help Salvi by getting the ball home quickly.
Reyes has not had an aggressive lead, and now it's down in the count 0-2 his teammate Devin Travis. Royals 39-0 this year with the lead entering the 8th inning.
Reyes could be gassed. So hot
right
out there. Yeah. You know, you got to continue to hydrate yourself in between innings. I mean, you have to drink that water. because you can cramp up easily. Games like this, long, a lot of standing around.
Foul tip into the glove, and that is out number 2.
See how he cuts that ball like that. He stays on the side, almost like a slider, but he holds the seams a little bit differently. Doesn't put as much torque on his wrist.
Bautista is 1 for 4, but easily could be 3 for 4. Kane made a fine running catch in left center field to rob him of a hit in the 4th, and then Escobar did the same to rob him of a hit to end the 6th inning. Final out after the Blue Jays scored 8 runs in that 6th. Jose against Wade Davis. Not much success. 4 for 24. Does have 1 home run, and Wade has not allowed one this year. One ball, 1 strike. In there, 1 and 2.
Living on the edges. That's exactly what you want if you're a pitcher. Doesn't always happen, but that one was there. Bautista, he thought that ball was in. Tried to give a little body language to home plate umpire Jerry Meals.
Fouled straight back, and he had a good swing on that 97-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yep, up just enough. Uh-oh. He might get tossed here if he messes with Jerry. Jerry Meals, he's got a little short fuse. Uh-oh, there you go. Yeah.
He just threw out one of the great sluggers of the game, Jose Bautista, an all-star. And now John Gibbons with that slow walk to try and break up the argument, but someone else is going to have to swing the bat for Bautista.
Oh, what
the count 1 and 2.
Man, you know, for Bautista to let that happen is not good at all. You know, in this situation here, tie game, power hitter, you know, everyone's a little bit on edge. The heat's getting to everybody, and you got to know that umpires standing behind that plate with all that gear on, they're not in any mood to take anything. So hitters know that. He's been around long enough. And now the poor guy that's got to come in and hit 1 and 2 count against Wade Davis, a lesser hitter probably.
I wonder if they'll go with Justin Smoke.
I mean, what else could happen in this game?
I don't know. I mean, this has been one of the craziest games I've seen this year. It's not been well played.
Well, look, you know, he walked out. That was on a foul ball. He walked off and said several things to Jerry Meals.
You knew he did not like that call when Wade Davis went with a cut fastball on the inside corner, and Bautista thought it was out of the strike zone. And Jose has one of the best strike zone disciplines in baseball. He has more walks than anybody else with 66. And it will be Justin Smoke to pinch hit for Jose Bautista. And he'll come in with a 1-2 count. Justin has plenty of power. Very strong young man. 8 home runs this year, 25 driven in. And he had an absolute blast on Canada Day, one that went about 470 feet. Went off the facing of the 5th deck.
Man, yeah, he's got big time power. But right now, Wade Davis got him 1-2. Guy coming off cold off the bench. I mean, this is as cold as you can get on a hot day.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
Now, if he gets a hit somehow, some way, he gets credited for the hit. If he strikes out, that's on Bautista.
Popped him up. Mile high right side. Again, that sun really in trouble. Kane had a better angle, called off Rios, and makes the catch. And you're right, every moment in this game has been rather nervous. The lover, this is how the Royals have responded after Toronto has scored to take the lead. Come back well. Infante, then Rios, then the sacrifice, then Reyes mistake. A hit by Kane.
They have the ability to bounce right back. Blue Jays dropped an 8th spot in the 6th. They came right back to 3. You love that resiliency about this team.
So here in the bottom of the 8th inning, we've got time to visit with Joel.
Well, this is definitely one of those weird and crazy games. 11 total unearned runs. The last time the Royals took part in a game with at least 11 unearned runs scored, June 8th, 2006. Just got that info from Stats Inc. Sent them a message. In that game, there were actually only 2 errors on each side. The 2 Royals errors coming from Doug Mankiewicz and Mark T. And it was a game played against the Rangers here at Kauffman Stadium. The Royals won that one 16-12. Total of 35 hits, 4 errors, and 11 unearned runs in that one.
Ouch. Well, there have been 7 errors combined by the Royals and Blue Jays today. And here's a check swing low. Bo Schultz is the new pitcher. And he has a 1-1 count on Paulo Orlando, who has singled to drive in a run, flied out to right field, and sacrificed. Bo, a 6'3" right-hander out of Dallas, Texas. Played college baseball at Northwestern.
Power fastball. He likes to sink the fastball, though, if he can. Get down ground balls, but he's got a really good slider. Might mix in a changeup to a lefty if he gets to see one.
That ball struck well, high in the air, left field, way back, and Orlando's done it twice walk-off grand slam earlier in this homestand, and now a home run in the 8th inning on one of the wildest, wackiest games we've seen this year to give Kansas City back an 11-10 lead.
Oh, he hit it well, and that wind, it helped him some, but that is nothing but clutch.
Now Escobar tries to drop one to left. Colabello coming on to make the catch, and one out.
Oh, man. Paulo Orlando putting a jolt in the ball, obviously wanting more playing time. Like that swing, good and short. He let the power of the fastball of Schultz generate that go-ahead run.
Hot Sunday afternoon, wind blowing out about 20 miles an hour. Thank you very much.
Got your closer warming up already in the bullpen.
Mike Moustakas is 1 for 3. Singled in the 2nd inning. Also was hit by a pitch in the 6th. Mike, after the ball game, heading with his wife and dad to Cincinnati. Voted in by you, the fans. Over 19 million votes for Moose. Two balls, one strike.
It's hard to imagine getting over 19 million votes. I mean, what that must do for your ego, for your persona, you know, the way you feel about yourself. You got to be feeling good. Now, we all know Mike's a very humble guy.
And he was very gracious when we talked to him the other day. He said it was awesome, amazing, and he goes, I can't thank the Royals fans enough.
It's just incredible.
And then he kind of smiled and said, I think my wife was a little responsible for some of those votes. But he also said very seriously, I work hard for Kansas City and work hard because we lost Game 7 of the World Series, and that drives me. And then he smacks one to right field. Second hit of the day for Moustakas.
But another thing about Moose's character is the Moose calls are coming all over the ballpark now, not just here, but everywhere the Royals go. Is he always praises his teammates? He's always talking about other players. You know, he deflects any kind of personal recognition to his pitching staff, to the bullpen, to Hosmer. So you know he is as humble a ball player as you can be.
Here is Lorenzo Cain. He takes strike one. Cain is 3 for 4 on the day. And that was Mike Moustakas' 26 multi-hit game. He flew past last year's total of 17 well back in June. Lorenzo to third. They go second, one, first base double play, and we head to the 9th inning. Greg Holland, come on, shut him out after Orlando went deep and gave you the lead.
It's hammer time.
he's cooling himself off. Mike Meyer taking a sip of some cold water on a hot Sunday afternoon.
Oh yeah, way to go, fellas.
Morgan Kramer, Kelly Meyer.
Love their antics and sense of humor. These guys
having a blast.
Folks, these guys bring the action to you wherever you may be.
And now Greg Holland will try and close things out. And we do have a great crew here, led by Joe Lavera, producer, Steve Kurtenbach, our director, Brian Shapiro, Al Broughton, Sam Abramson, Dave Holtzman, all doing a terrific job. It's so much fun following a winning team like Kansas City has shown this year. They have the best record in the American League at 51-34, and obviously playing in one of the goofiest games before the All-Star break, 11-10. Encarnacion skies it to left. Orlando says he wants it, and he will take it for out number 1.
Paulo Orlando, he is raising his skill level by playing with these guys. With the championship energy and the swagger that they have, has elevated his game. We know he can hit triples and hit the gaps with his great speed, but man, now all of a sudden he's getting hot with the homer. He's starting to recognize pitches he can hit out of the ballpark and really becoming a difference maker.
Well, the Royals right now are 7-3 on this homestand. They could go 8-3 if Holland finishes them off. Here's Colabello, dangerous right-handed bat. But if they go 8-3, the Royals are 6-3, and Orlando's 2-0 with his walk-off grand slam and this big home run in a wild and wacky ball game on a hot Sunday afternoon.
So far, when people were wondering who's going to step up in Alex Gordon's place, there you got it. Gerard Dyson in Orlando is doing the job. They are picking up best they can.
Yeah, because Dyson immediately impacted the game after Gordon went down with the injury.
One of the best catches I've seen him make ever with that double play he made the other day on Thursday.
Colabello rolls it foul, so Holland has him down 1 ball 2 strikes. Now Greg the other day was absolutely at his very best. In the 9th inning he faced 3, struck them all out. Martin, Navarro, Pilar, and he had that slider biting straight down.
That's the hammer.
Up and in with the fastball at 95.
Like to see that. Back the hitter off. Lots of times when you try to back that hitter off like that, it sets up that outside part of the plate. 95. That'll do it.
Colabello is a guy who can strike out. 58 and 220 plate appearances this year. That one bounces as it clips in the dirt.
Blue Jays making some Royals fans a little bit nervous. After what all's gone on in this game, you just can't count on anything.
Walked Colabello after Greg had a 1-2 count. That's the 3rd walk for Colabello today. And we will see a pinch runner for him. It will be Goins. Ryan Goins, number 17, pinch running for Colabello.
Ball played him. Reyes. This play here, Reyes didn't throw it home. They could have gotten Salvi. He kicks another one. And just a very difficult day on defense for both teams.
Here is Russell Martin. Russell fouls the first pitch off. Strike one. He had the big hit in the 7th inning that drew the Blue Jays within 1. Then they scored the tying run in the 8th inning. Orlando hit the home run in the bottom of the 8th to give Kansas City their current 11-10 lead. Upstairs, 1 ball, 1 strike. How was Martin done against Greg in the past? 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts.
How about putting him in the lane? Holland's slider, sometimes he'll hit the top of that ball.
Well, Greg struck him out. He was the first man he faced in that 9th inning, protecting a 3-0 Royal lead. Greg falling behind 2-1. In there, 2-2, and it looked like Martin was getting ready to deliver on a fastball, and recognized late that it was the slider.
He was gearing up for it. Sometimes, a guy that throws that hard 95, you're gonna cheat a little bit as a hitter. You're gonna kind of get something going already, loading up sooner.
Oh, wow! Where did that miss?
Wow, identical pitches. The previous one and this one's right on top of it, top of the strike zone. Jerry Meal's not going there.
Nothing easy in this one.
Nope, and Goins, Gibbons sending him to stay out of a double play situation here. We could see a strike him out, throw him out.
Because Goins does not have a stolen base this year. Yes, he's a faster runner than Colabello, but no steals in 67 games. Royals with 6 in the 1st, 1 in the 5th. The Blue Jays with 8 in their 6th to take the lead, but the Royals came right back with 3. And then the Jays with runs in the 7th and 8th for Kansas City reclaimed the lead. Now trying to finish it off. And Martin hits a ground ball to 3rd. Moustakas goes to 1st. And are they calling that a foul ball? It is a foul ball, and they'll try it again at 3-2.
That's good practice for Moose. He's able to make that play easily, and you can't assume anything, so you go ahead and just do what you can do. Wait for the call later. But Martin, he's definitely cheating on Holland, because the last few pitches he's been trying to pull, so he's really trying to gear up. And to me, 3-2 for a hitter, you're looking to hit the ball to the ballpark. That's exactly what he's trying to do.
He struck him out. Throw to second. Strike him out, throw him out, double play, game over.
What a great pitch. That fooled Martin. 3-2, you can't take abbreviated half like that, but that's Holland's stuff and ability. What a fantastic first half by the Kansas City Royals.
An exhausting game. Kansas City survives 11-10 winners over the Blue Jays.
Oh boy! Now I had that chance, that high fastball. Struck him out. Sure enough, Goins has got to go. Salvi was ready. Throw was a little high. Infante was able to get the tag on him in time.
Yeah, Omar did a really nice job, because Salvador had to throw over the body of the right-handed hitter who was leaning over the plate.
Oh man, what a marathon and a hard-fought battle, but the Royals come on top.
And Salvador, no rest for the weary after playing this entire 9-inning, 4-hour game. He heads to Cincinnati with his fellow All-Stars. But Hud, how about Paulo Orlando? This guy's been unbelievable on this homestand.
Oh, he's been special. You know, he was special when he got here. 10-year minor leaguer, gets his opportunity, hits the triples. He's Paulo Triplo and Paulo Slammo, and now he's Paulo game-winning homer.
You are a piece of work. Joe, take it away from Hud, please.
All right, we'll do so. Joined right now by Paulo Orlando. And earlier in the year, we were calling you Paulo Triplo. Yeah. Now Rex is calling you Paulo Slammo. Grand slam the other day. The game-winning home run today. Before I ask you about that, how crazy of a day was this?
Thank you for staying here.
I said I'd stay.
Thank you for staying. It's too hot today.
That is really cold.
That's what I like to do.
Hey, tell us about the end of that game.
I just doing my job. I just try to do my job, you know. He struck him out. I just try to get him out in second base and the game's over.
All right, real quick. You're heading to the All-Star game. They're chanting Salvi. What do you want to say?
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the support. I love you.
Thank you for staying.
All right, anyway.
My wife, my daughter there.
I don't know if we can see it, but in about the second row behind the first base dugout is the big flag of Brazil. Paula, who's up there?
It's my wife, my daughter just coming today, you know, like it's a long travel. So I just joined like the 4-day off with her, you know. I miss so much. Look at her. Oh, man.
Wow. So, okay, you're saying how much you missed your wife, how much you missed your little baby, and they're here to watch you hit a game-winning home run in front of a packed crowd. Paulo, how special is this?
I can't explain, you know, like it's hard to come in here, you know, I spent a lot of months, but I hopefully the next couple of years she stay with me, my daughter, always support every time. So I just want to say thank God for everything He gave in my life, and let's get up.
Last thing, and we'll let you go because it is hot out there, although it feels a little bit cooler right now. How tough was it playing out there? A long game, a crazy game. There were a lot of errors, the sun beating down. How difficult?
Yeah, we tried to finish the game like early, you know, we scored 6 runs, but Blue Jays have a lot of good hitters and come back, so we'll fight, you know. And just the last inning, Escobar said, hey, let's hit a homer, you know, you go home and enjoy the day off. So I just say, like, to them, like, good luck to the All-Star game, but I enjoy with my family, too.
Paulo, great job. Enjoy the All-Star break. We're glad your family is here, and congratulations on a huge week.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for supporting us every time, and just come back again.
There we go. Paulo Orlando, walk-off grand slam, big home run today, and he does it in front of his family, guys.
He told me earlier this year that Fabricia had never seen him play in a big league game. She finally came up to watch her husband play in the major leagues with the Kansas City Royals, and then she comes back for the All-Star break, and her husband hits a home run in the bottom of the 8th to win one of the craziest games.
He got emotional, and so did I. Long wait for this young man, and it's paying off so far. Paulo home run-o.